Story 1. Buddhist Teachings for Relaxation. Ajahn Chah's Forest Wisdom. Resting in Simplicity. Section 1. Hey guys. Tonight we are going to explore some timeless Zen stories that have helped people find peace and relaxation for centuries. If your mind's been racing all day, these tales might gently pull you back to the stillness waiting within. You picture yourself stepping softly into a forest, where the path beneath your feet is covered in dry leaves. Each step makes a faint crunch, and the cool evening air carries the scent of earth and pine. In our busy lives, it is easy to forget that calm is not out there, it is already yours to uncover. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you feel like sharing, drop your location and the local time in the comments. It is always special to see where everyone is listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let us ease into tonight's journey together. You step deeper into Ajahn Chah's forest monastery. The lantern light is dim, flickering as it catches the simple bamboo walls of a meditation hall. There is no grandeur here, just wooden floors, quiet mats, and monks who move with the softness of falling leaves. Ajahn Chah himself is seated on a plain cushion, no more elevated than anyone else. His robe simple and worn, his smile gentle but steady. This is the forest path of simplicity, the way he taught, not with elaborate philosophies, but with the directness of experience. You sit across from him, and even though he says nothing at first, the silence already feels like a teaching. It is like walking into a room where everyone has put down their burdens. You can feel the difference immediately. The Buddha taught that suffering arises when we cling to things, whether they are possessions, expectations, or even ideas about how life should be. Ajahn Chah would often point to a drinking glass and say, "To me, this glass is already broken." He did not mean it in a grim way. Instead, he meant that because he understood its impermanence, he could fully appreciate it while it lasted. You look at the cup of tea before you, steam rising gently, and wonder what would it feel like to live with that kind of acceptance. In the forest, every detail becomes part of the lesson. The crack of a twig reminds you that things pass quickly. The distant call of a bird vanishes into silence as if it never was. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, nature's own lullaby, is not it? And you realize that everything is speaking the same truth. Nothing is fixed, yet everything belongs. There is a quirky story monks share about Ajahn Chah. Once, when a young student complained that the forest noises were distracting his meditation, Ajahn Chah simply laughed and said, "It is not the sounds that disturb you, it is you who disturbs the sounds." You imagine how it would feel if, instead of resisting the chirping of crickets or the whisper of the wind, you welcome them as companions. Isn't it interesting how what you resist becomes heavier, while what you embrace becomes light? As you sit with that, your breathing slows. You notice the rise and fall of your chest, steady and grounding. The teaching is simple, but not easy. Let things be as they are. Simplicity is not about having less, it is about needing less. A hut, a bowl, a robe. Ajahn Chah showed that a peaceful life does not require adding more, but releasing what weighs you down. So you ask yourself quietly, what would it mean for you to walk this forest path of simplicity in your own life? Maybe it is not about leaving everything behind, but about letting your mind loosen its grip. Zen masters might ask, if your hands are full of stones, how will you ever hold water? The night deepens, stars glimmer faintly above the canopy, and the cool air wraps around you like a blanket. You feel the ground beneath you, solid yet soft, as though the earth itself is reminding you to rest. And here, at the threshold of Ajahn Chah's world, you sense that the journey has only just begun. The forest is vast, the silence deep, and every step is an invitation to return to yourself. Section 2. You sit quietly on the forest path. The night wrapped around you like a gentle shawl. The crickets hum their steady rhythm, and every so often a leaf breaks free, floating through the still air before it touches the earth with a soft sigh. You notice how even that tiny sound, the falling of a single leaf, draws your attention. It does not demand it simply invites it. Ajahn Chah often told his students to listen to the forest, not as noise, but as teaching. The rustle of leaves in the wind carries a lesson of impermanence. Each sound arises, lingers for a moment, and then disappears, never to return in quite the same way. You hear the breeze swirl through the tall trees, different every second, like a song that can be replayed. Isn't it interesting how the natural world does not hold on? It does not cling. The leaves do not resist when it is time to fall. They let go. The Buddhist teaching on impermanence, anicca, is often repeated but rarely felt. Tonight, though, as you lean against the trunk of an old teak tree, you can feel it in your bones. Life moves like these sounds, always shifting, never pausing. The creak of a branch, the call of a night bird, the hush after a gust, all are reminders that clinging is what makes change painful. If you stop clinging, change becomes a dance instead of a fight. There is a story Ajahn Chah once shared about a monk who complained of boredom during long meditation retreats. The monk said, "The forest is too quiet. There is nothing to hear, nothing to see." Ajahn Chah simply picked up a leaf, crumpled it slowly in his hand, and said, "If you truly listen, there is always something teaching you." You smile at the thought. How often have you overlooked the simple truths whispering all around you? As you sit in stillness, you begin to notice subtle layers in the soundscape. The wind is not just one sound, it rises, falls, curls around your ears, like invisible fingers brushing through your hair. The leaves do not just rustle, they crackle, flutter, whisper. A single tree may sound like a whole chorus when the breeze passes through. And you wonder, what if your own thoughts were like this forest wind, moving through the branches of your mind? Could you watch them come and go without grabbing at them? You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, soft, steady, and soothing, like nature's own breath. It reminds you of a quirky practice in some Zen monasteries, where monks meditate specifically by focusing on sounds. They sit for hours in open halls, simply listening. Bells, birds, footsteps, even rain on the roof. The point is not to block the sound, but to realize that awareness is large enough to hold it all. Imagine how freeing it feels when nothing has to be pushed away. Ajahn Chah once said, "If you let go a little, you will have a little peace. If you let go a lot, you will have a lot of peace." As you hear the leaf fall beside you, that teaching lands differently. It is not abstract, it is alive. The forest lets go constantly. And yet, look how beautiful it is. A thought drifts through your mind. What in your own life could you let fall, like these leaves, without needing to chase it? Perhaps it is a worry that keeps circling. Perhaps it is an expectation you hold tightly. Zen masters might ask, if the tree never dropped its leaves, how would spring ever come? You tilt your head back, gazing at the dark canopy above. The stars flicker between the branches, steady and timeless, while below them everything shifts, sways, and falls. There is no contradiction, both change and stillness belong here. Your breathing naturally slows, sensing with the rhythm of the night, as though the forest itself is breathing through you. And with that, the lesson of the leaves settles in. Life is teaching you through every sound, every moment, if only you will listen. Section 3. You sit now inside the small meditation hall of the forest monastery. The floorboards creak softly beneath you as you shift, and the candlelight dances on the worn wooden beams above. A monk brings you a simple clay teacup filled with warm, earthy tea. The cup is unpolished, slightly chipped at the rim, but it feels solid in your hands, warm against your palms. You lift it slowly, breathing in the faint aroma of roasted leaves. Ajahn Chah once held up a teacup like this to his students and said, "To me, this cup is already broken?" At first, it sounds strange, almost pessimistic, but then he explained because he knows the cup will one day crack, fall, or fade away. He can appreciate it fully now. There is no fear of losing it, because in his heart, he has already let it go. You take a sip of the tea, noticing its warmth filling your body, and you wonder what would it feel like if you held every moment of your life with the same acceptance. The Buddha often taught about emptiness, not as nothingness, but as openness and emptiness that makes space for life to flow freely. An empty teacup can hold tea. An empty mind can welcome peace. When you are too full of expectations or rigid opinions, where is the space for calm? The teaching is clear. To receive, you must first be willing to be empty. There is a quirky Zen story that comes to mind. Professor once visited a Zen master to learn about meditation. The master poured tea into the professor's cup and kept pouring until it overflowed. The professor exclaimed, "It is overfull. No more will go in." The master smiled and said, "Like this cup, you are full of your own opinions. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup?" You glance at the clay cup in your hands and smile. Isn't it true how often your own thoughts spill over, leaving no room for stillness? You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside again, faint but constant, like the background music of life itself. It reminds you that just as the forest makes space for the wind to pass through, you too can make space for experiences without clinging. What if you treated your mind like this cup, ready to receive whatever the moment brings, without fear of it being filled or emptied? Ajahn Chah sometimes teased his students when they complained about being confused or uncertain. He would say, "Good. Be uncertain. That is the beginning of wisdom." You realize that the empty cup is not a problem, it is a gift. When you do not know everything, you are open to learning. When you stop trying to control every outcome, you start to notice what is already here. Think of how, in your own life, you might carry invisible teacups expectations about how others should behave, how work should go, how your day should unfold, and when reality spills differently, frustration comes. But what if you emptied those cups before you even began? What if you sat down at the table of life with nothing but openness? Zen masters might ask, if your hands are already full, how will you ever receive the gift the world is offering? The tea cools slowly in your cup, reminding you that nothing stays the same for long. You sip again, feeling its warmth fading just a little more. And strangely, instead of sadness, you feel gratitude. The fleeting nature of the tea makes it more precious, does not it? Just as the fleeting nature of this moment makes it worth noticing fully. The candlelight flickers lower now, casting long shadows across the room. The monks sit silently, their breathing slow and steady, as though they too are just empty cups, waiting to be filled with the quiet wisdom of the night. And in that silence, you begin to sense what Ajahn Chah meant, that in accepting the brokenness, the impermanence, you unlock the ability to truly cherish what is here. The cup in your hands feels lighter now, as if it carries no weight beyond the moment. And in that simplicity, you rest. Section 4. The night deepens, and you wander back outside, carrying the calm of that simple teacup with you. The forest is darker now, the moon slipping between drifting clouds. You find your way to a small pond near the edge of the monastery grounds. The surface is still, like polished glass, reflecting the stars above. When you kneel closer, you see your own face wavering in the reflection, the ripples shifting it into shapes you barely recognize. Ajahn Chah often compared the mind to water. He said, when the water is still, you can see your reflection clearly. But when it is stirred up, the image becomes distorted. You sit quietly by the pond, watching the play of ripples fade until the water settles again. Isn't to your mind like this, too, when you are restless, caught in thoughts, emotions, or worries? Your inner world becomes cloudy, but when you pause, breathe, and let things settle, clarity returns on its own. The Buddha taught mindfulness sati as the path to this clarity. To be mindful is simply to notice, without judgment, what is happening here and now. The sound of your breath, the coolness of the night air, the way the stars sparkle in silence. As you pay attention, the restless mind begins to soften. You realize you do not have to control your thoughts, just as you do not control the pond's ripples. You only need to wait with patience, and clarity will come. There is a quirky practice some monks in the Thay forest tradition follow. They sit by a pond or river at night, not meditating in silence as you might imagine, but watching their reflections in the water for hours, not in vanity, but as a reminder, this too is impermanent, this too will change. When the breeze distorts their reflection, they learn not to cling to appearances. When the reflection clears again, they see the calm beneath the surface. You imagine sitting there yourself, your reflection swaying with every breath of wind, teaching you what it means to be fluid yet steady. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, blending with the faint chorus of frogs by the pond. The sounds layer over each other, yet nothing is out of place. Even the buzzing of a mosquito near your ear becomes part of this quiet orchestra. Isn't it curious that when you resist a sound, it disturbs you, but when you let it in, it becomes soothing? Ajahn Chah once told his students, "Don't grab at thoughts, let them float like leaves on a pond. If you chase them, you will only stir the water." You look again at the pond, imagining each leaf resting on its surface. They drift slowly, not because you move them, but because that is their nature. Could your thoughts be the same, appearing, floating, and fading if you simply let them? A question arises in your mind. What if clarity does not mean controlling everything, but allowing space for things to settle on their own? Zen masters might ask, when the pond clears, does the reflection force itself into shape, or does it simply appear? You take a slow breath, feeling the cool air fill your chest. With each exhale, you notice your own inner waters settling. The noise of the day, the ripples of worry, begin to soften. You remember the teacup, already broken, and realize that just as the cup is empty, the pond is clear when left undisturbed. Both teachings circle back to the same truth. Let go, and peace returns. The moon slips free of the clouds, its reflection shining in the water like a silver coin. The pond mirrors the sky perfectly now, as if earth and heavens have become one. And in that moment, you sense that your own mind can be like this pond, capable of holding the vastness of the world when it is calm, capable of reflecting truth when it is still. You close your eyes, carrying that reflection within you, trusting that even when ripples come, clarity is never far away. It is always waiting, like the pond beneath the breeze. Section 5. The night stretches on, and you rise from the pond's edge, your body moving slowly, as though the stillness has entered your bones. You wander through the forest paths, lit faintly by the moon, until you come upon a small hut tucked beneath towering teak trees. Inside, the soft glow of an oil lamp reveals a shelf with just a few belongings, a robe neatly folded, a wooden bowl, and on the far side, an old clock hanging crookedly on the wall. The hands of the clock no longer move. It has long since stopped ticking, yet it hangs there, untouched, as if reminding anyone who enters that time, too, eventually stops. You stare at it for a moment, amused by its presence. What good is a broken clock in a monastery, where the bell already marks the rhythm of the day? And yet, Ajahn Chah would say that the broken clock is the perfect teacher. It points to timelessness, to the futility of clinging to schedules and constant movement. The Buddha spoke often about the suffering that comes from clinging to control. You might notice how much of your own life is governed by the ticking of clocks, appointments, deadlines, even meals measured by time. And yet, the forest ignores all of this. The trees do not check a watch to know when to shed their leaves. The moon does not consult a calendar to rise. The pond does not hurry to clear its ripples. They follow the rhythm of nature, not the urgency of human clocks. Isn't it interesting how much peace there is when you stop measuring every moment? Ajahn Chah once said to his students, "Do not try to fast forward or rewind your life. Sit with what is here." He would laugh gently at those who always asked, "How long should I meditate? When will I become enlightened?" He would answer, "Do you ask a tree how long it takes to grow? You realize the broken clock is a reminder. The path cannot be rushed. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside again, soft and rhythmic, almost like a replacement for ticking seconds. Nature has its own way of marking time. Every gust, every sound, every silence, none of them repeat exactly, yet together they create a flow. What if you let go of the clock's insistence and live by this flow instead?" There is a quirky story about a monk who once asked Ajahn Chah how to deal with impatience in meditation. The monk said, "I keep checking how long I have been sitting." Ajahn Chah pointed to a broken clock on the wall and said, "Sit as long as this clock ticks." The monk was puzzled until he realized that teaching it is not about counting minutes, but about dissolving the need to count at all. You think of your own life. How often do you find yourself wishing time would move faster or slower, longing for the weekend, dreading the meeting, replaying the past, rushing toward the future? And yet, Zen masters might ask, if you are always waiting for the next moment, when will you live this one? The oil lamp flickers in the hut, casting shadows across the broken clock's face. For a moment, you feel as though time itself has melted away. There is no past, no future, just this, the sound of leaves outside, the gentle glow of the lamp, your breath moving in and out like the tide. Ajahn Chah often reminded his students, peace is found not in the future, but in the stopping. And here, in this hut with the broken clock, you see what he meant. Stopping does not mean giving up, it means stepping out of the endless rush of hours into the timeless present. As you sit, your breath slows again, steady and unhurried. The broken clock no longer feels like a useless object, but a friend. It whispers, "You are already where you need to be." And with that, you lean back, eyes half closed, carried by the rhythm of the forest, resting in a timeless simplicity that asks nothing more of you. Section 6. The forest path guides you farther from the hut with the broken clock, and soon you find yourself in a clearing where the moonlight spills freely onto the earth. In the distance, you hear a faint whining sound, low and insistent. As you step closer, you see a thin stray dog lingering at the edge of the trees. Its ribs show beneath its fur, and its eyes search for scraps. It circles cautiously, both desperate and fearful, as if hunger itself has become its master. Ajahn Chah often used images like this: animals. Hunger, the body's needs to speak about the restless nature of desire. He would say, the mind chasing after cravings is like a hungry dog circling a butcher's shop. It never rests. You watch the dog pace back and forth, nose to the ground, hoping for something to fill the emptiness inside. And you realize how often the human heart behaves the same way, circling around pleasures, hopes, or distractions, never fully satisfied. The Buddhist teaching on Tanha, craving, tells us that desire is endless. You satisfy one urge, and another appears. You reach for comfort, and soon you want more. It is like drinking salty water to quench thirst. The more you drink, the more parched you feel. Sitting in the clearing, You notice how this truth lives even in the smallest habits. Reaching for your phone again and again, craving recognition, craving certainty. Isn't it curious how even the simplest longings can tire you out? A quirky story is told of Ajahn Chah when a student asked him how to deal with desires during long fasts. Instead of lecturing, he laughed and said, "When you see the dog of craving, do not kick it, give it a little pat on the head, and then do not follow it." The point was not to fight desire, but to acknowledge it gently and let it pass. Fighting only makes the dog snarl, but meeting it with patience allows it to lose interest and wander away. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside the clearing, mixing with the dog's soft whimper. Together, they form a strange harmony, one born of nature, the other of need. And you wonder what would it be like if you treated your own cravings with the same patience as listening to the forest. Instead of scolding yourself for wanting, simply noticing, hunger is here, thirst is here, desire is here. Ajahn Chah once reminded his students that the body, too, is like this hungry dog. It has its needs, but those needs are never fully gone. Feed it what it requires, he would say, but do not let it drag you everywhere it wants to go. You think of your own body, how often you let tiredness, hunger, or stress control your mood. Yet here in the forest, you see another way, meeting the body's needs with compassion, but not mistaking them for who you are. So you ask yourself quietly, if your mind is like a dog, what would happen if you trained it with kindness instead of harshness? Zen masters might ask, is the dog your master, or are you the one holding the leash? The dog in the clearing finally lies down, curling into itself, breathing heavily but calmer now. Its hunger has not vanished, but for the moment, it rests. Watching it, you realize this is the lesson Ajahn pointed to. Desires may never disappear, but they do not have to control you. Like the dog, they can settle when you stop feeding them with endless chasing. The moon drifts higher, bathing the clearing in silver light. You feel your own desires soften, just for now, replaced by a quiet patience. You close your eyes, listening again to the forest, and you let the restless dog within you curl up and sleep, at least for this night. Section 7. The clearing fades behind you, and once more you follow the forest path, your steps slow and steady. The night has deepened into that hushed hour when even the insects quiet down, leaving the air filled only with the occasional breath of wind. You come upon a small bamboo hut, nestled at the base of a hill, its walls woven from simple reeds, its roof patched with palm leaves. A faint lantern glow flickers through the thin slats, and the sight alone fills you with a sense of calm. Ajahn Chah used to live in huts just like this, built with his own hands or with the help of his students. They were fragile, nothing like the strong houses of the world outside. Rain leaked through sometimes, and the bamboo would creak in the wind. Yet he often said, in a simple hut, you see how little you truly need. You stand at the threshold, imagining what it feels like to live with just a mat, a bowl, and the forest as your companion. Isn't it interesting how peace comes not from adding more, but from needing less? The Buddha taught the middle way, not indulgence, not harsh deprivation, but a life free from excess. In a bamboo hut, you have exactly what is necessary. No more, no less. You can feel that balance even now, looking at the little room where everything has its place. Nothing wasted, nothing extra. It is as if the walls themselves breathe simplicity, reminding you that comfort is not about luxury, but about freedom from clutter. There is a quirky story monks tell about Ajahn Chah when visitors from the city came to see him. They were shocked at the sparseness of his hut. No bed, no decorations, just bare essentials. One visitor asked, "How can you live like this?" Ajahn Chah simply smiled and asked, "How can you live with so much?" You smile at that reversal, how quickly we assume more is better, when perhaps more is simply heavier. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, passing through the bamboo walls as though they are not even there. The hut does not resist the wind. It bends, creaks, and lets it pass. You wonder what if your own life could be like this hut, open to experience, flexible, unburdened. When difficulties arise, instead of resisting them rigidly, you could allow them to pass through, leaving you standing, still intact. Ajahn Chah once remarked, "If you want to understand the truth, leave simply. When you have less, you see more." You sit down on the bamboo floor and feel its roughness beneath your palms. The ground is hard, the air cool, yet nothing feels lacking. In fact, the simplicity sharpens your senses, the sound of the wind clearer, the glow of the lantern brighter, the rhythm of your breath deeper. You think of your own home, filled with objects and comforts. Some you use, some you barely notice anymore. And you ask yourself quietly, what do I actually need to feel content? Zen masters might ask, if your house burned down, what would you discover you could live without? The question is unsettling, yet liberating. Perhaps peace is not about guarding what you have, but about discovering what you can let go. The hut creaks again in the wind, a reminder of its fragility. Yet instead of fear, you feel a curious gratitude. Fragility makes life precious. Simplicity makes beauty visible. Sitting in this little bamboo hut, you feel the joy of freedom from excess. You realize that every belonging you release is like opening a window, letting in more air, more light, more space for peace to breathe. The lantern flickers lower, shadows dancing along the woven walls. You close your eyes, resting in the quiet joy that comes not from abundance, but from simplicity. And in that stillness, the bamboo hut becomes not just a shelter, but a teacher whispering that freedom is found in needing little, and peace is always closer than you think. Section 8. You step out of the bamboo hut, leaving its woven walls behind, and follow a trail where the moonlight paints silver patches on the forest floor. The night is hushed, almost reverent, when suddenly you hear a burst of laughter ringing through the trees. It is not harsh or jarring, but light, bubbling, almost childlike. You follow the sound until you find a monk sitting on a rock, robe gathered loosely, his shoulders shaking as he laughs to himself under the stars. At first, you wonder what could be so funny in the middle of the forest at night. But Ajahn Chah often reminded his students that joy and lightness were essential parts of practice. If your meditation makes you grim, he would say, then you are doing it the wrong way. The laughing monk embodies this truth. He is not laughing at anyone, not mocking, not careless. His laughter is simply the joy of being alive in this very moment. You pause and feel the corners of your own mouth soften into a smile. Isn't it strange how contagious lightness can be? The Buddha taught that suffering comes from clinging, but he also reminded his disciples that freedom brings happiness. True Dharma does not weigh you down, it uplifts. In fact, one of the fruits of practice is piti, a quiet joy that arises not from possessions or status, but from a mind unburdened. Sitting near the laughing monk, you notice how his joy is effortless. He laughs as easily as the wind stirs the leaves. There is a quirky story monks love to share. Once, Ajahn Chah was giving a long, serious teaching when a rooster suddenly crowed loudly from outside the hall, interrupting him mid-sentence. Instead of ignoring it, Ajahn Chah burst out laughing, saying, "The rooster understands the Dharma better than we do." The entire hall joined in laughter, and in that moment, the teaching landed more deeply than any solemn words could have. You imagine yourself in that hall, swept into laughter that washes away every trace of tension. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside again, carrying the sound of distant crickets and frogs. But now, the forest feels different, lighter, almost playful. The laughter you heard has colored the whole night, as though the trees themselves are smiling with you. You wonder, how often do you take life too seriously? How often do you treat practice, work, or even rest as burdens instead of invitations to joy? Ajahn Chah once told his monks, "Let go a little, and you will laugh a little. Let go a lot, and you will laugh a lot." Sitting here, you see the truth of it. The laughing monk does not laugh because life is perfect. He laughs because he is free from needing it to be perfect. That is the difference, joy born not of control, but of release. A question stirs in your mind. What would it feel like to laugh at your own restlessness, your own worries? Instead of fighting them, Zen masters might ask, when the world feels heavy, why not put it down for a moment and smile? The monk's laughter quiets, fading into soft chuckles, then silence. He sits upright again, eyes half closed, but the trace of a smile lingers on his lips. You notice your own body lighter, your shoulders looser, your breath freer. The forest no longer feels heavy or mysterious, it feels friendly, like a companion who knows how to tease you back into balance. You close your eyes, still smiling faintly, and realize that this too is part of the path. Not only stillness and discipline, but joy, humor, and laughter. The forest teaches in whispers and in giggles, and both lead to the same peace. Section 9. Clouds gather slowly above the forest, soft gray shapes drifting across the sky. The moonlight fades, and soon you hear the first delicate drops of rain tapping against the bamboo leaves. At first, it is a gentle sprinkle, scattered notes on a silent drum, but within minutes the sound deepens, steady and full. As the rain begins to fall in earnest, you step beneath the eaves of a hut, watching the water cascade from the roof in silver threads. The forest seems to exhale with relief, the dust settling, the air thick with the earthy fragrance of wet soil. You close your eyes and simply listen. The rain has its own rhythm, neither hurried nor slow, just as it needs to be. It does not demand the trees to grow faster, nor does it apologize for soaking the ground. It falls, and the forest accepts. Ajahn Chah often told his students, just as the rain falls without choosing, so too do experiences arise. Let them come. Let go. He reminded them that life flows according to its nature, not according to our preferences. You think of how often you resist the seasons of your own life, wishing away discomfort, clinging to pleasure, impatient for the next change. Yet the rain teaches another way, to trust the natural rhythm, to rest in what is. The Buddhist teaching on dependent origination points to this same truth, that everything arises due to conditions. And when conditions change, so too does the experience. The rain tonight falls because the clouds are full, because the wind carried moisture, because the air cooled. Nothing happens alone, and so too with your joys, your sorrows, your moments of peace. They arrive because of conditions, and they will pass when conditions shift. Isn't it comforting to remember that nothing is permanent? Not even your struggles? You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, blending now with the rushing rain, the two sounds weaving together into a single lullaby. In some Zen traditions, monks practice listening meditation specifically during storms. They sit without moving, letting the roar of rain wash over them, teaching them that peace is not the absence of noise, but the ability to rest within it. Imagine yourself there, every drop a teacher, every gust of wind a reminder to let go. There is a story about Ajahn Chah being asked why he did not seem worried when heavy storms tore through the forest, damaging huts and soaking robes. He smiled and said, "The rain is just doing its job. Why should I be upset with it?" You chuckle softly at the thought. How often do you get upset at life for simply doing its job, changing? flowing, bringing both sunshine and storms. A question arises: what if, instead of resisting the storms in your own life, you leaned into them the way the forest leans into the rain? Zen masters might ask, if the rain falls whether you smile or frown, why not smile? As the downpour continues, you feel your breathing sensing with its rhythm steady, cleansing, unhurried. Each inhale feels like the forest drawing in freshness. Each exhale, like the forest releasing what it no longer needs. The sound of water becomes so constant it blurs into silence. A blanket of calm that wraps around you. The rain finally begins to soften, tapering into scattered drops. The forest glistens, branches heavy with water, the earth dark and rich, and in the quiet after the storm, you sense the truth of the teaching. Every rhythm, no matter how fierce, finds its end. Every storm gives way to stillness. You step out from under the eaves, the damp earth cool beneath your feet, the air cleansed and new, the forest is alive, yet peaceful, and you realize that you, too, can trust this path of falling rain, the natural unfolding of life without needing to control or resist. Section 10. The storm is past, leaving the forest washed and shimmering under a silver sky. Drops of water cling to the bamboo leaves, falling one by one, each landing with a faint plink that echoes like a tiny bell. The air feels cooler now, lighter, as though the whole world has exhaled. You follow the narrow trail until it opens into a wide clearing where the monastery's main gate stands. The gate is simple, two wooden posts, weathered and worn, holding a crossbeam where vines have begun to climb. It does not look like much, yet in this quiet moment, it feels symbolic. An opening, an invitation. Ajahn Chah often reminded his students that the true gate of freedom is not outside but within. When the heart lets go, he said, everywhere you go is free. You stand before the open gate and realize that it has no door. Nothing blocks you. Nothing demands a key. It is open. Always open, waiting for you to walk through. Isn't it that what freedom really is not something earned, but something recognized? The Buddha taught that liberation comes when clinging ends, not when the world changes. Right here, before this simple gate, you see that truth reflected. There is a quirky story about Ajahn Chah when someone asked him how to know if they were progressing on the path. He pointed to the open doorway of his hut and said, "See, you can walk in or out. The gate does not hold you, only you do." You smile at the memory. How often do we imagine ourselves trapped, when really the walls are only in our own minds? You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside the gate, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and flowers freshly washed by rain. The sound feels like a final blessing, reminding you that nothing stands between you and peace except perhaps your own hesitation to step through. What would it be like if you stopped standing outside your own freedom and simply walked in? Ajahn Chah's teachings echo here. Let go a little, and you will find a little peace. Let go completely, and you will find complete peace. You take a deep breath, imagining your worries, your doubts, your endless striving falling from your shoulders like rainwater dripping from leaves. For a moment, you feel the simplicity of being free, light, unburdened, open. The open gate is not a destination, but a reminder that freedom is not something to be found in the future, but to be stepped into right now. Zen masters might ask, if the gate is already open, what are you waiting for? As you linger in the clearing, you recall the journey of the night, the cup already broken, the pond reflecting stillness, the dog curling up to rest, the hut breathing simplicity, the monk laughing under the stars, the rain falling in its own rhythm. Each moment was a gate, too, was not it? A chance to step into peace. If only you noticed, your breath slows, steady and calm. The forest around you is silent again, yet alive with presence. You close your eyes, resting in this final teaching, and you whisper to yourself, freedom is already here. The gate has always been open, and as your mind softens, you feel every worry slip away, like leaves floating down a quiet stream. Peace is here, always has been. Story 2, The Path to Inner Peace, Breathing with Avalokiteshvara, Compassionate Presence at Night. Section 1. Hey guys. Tonight we are going to explore some timeless Zen stories that have helped people find peace and relaxation for centuries. If your mind's been racing all day, these tales might gently pull you back to the stillness waiting within. In our busy lives, it is easy to forget that calm is not out there, it is already yours to uncover. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you feel like it, post your location and the local time in the comments. It is always wonderful to know where you are listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let us ease into tonight's journey together. You sit beneath a wide sky where the moon glows softly, silver light spreading across the forest like a blanket. The air is cool and still, each breath drifting slowly in and out of your lungs. Tonight, you breathe as Avalokiteshvara breathes, the Bodhisattva of compassion, whose presence is said to listen deeply to the cries of the world. Every inhalation draws in calm, every exhalation offers kindness. With each breath, you notice a little more space inside you, as if your ribs are unfolding to make room for something larger than yourself. The Buddha often taught that the breath is the anchor of mindfulness. Just as the tide steadies the shore, your breath steadies the restless mind. When you follow its rise and fall, the noise of the world softens. Avalokiteshvara's practice is not only awareness of breath, but breathing with compassion. As you inhale, you can imagine drawing in the suffering of the world, and as you exhale, offering ease, relief, and care. It may sound impossible, but here in the stillness of night, it feels natural, like a candle sharing its flame without ever burning out. There is a quirky practice some Zen monks perform. They sit at night with their faces turned toward the moon, breathing in its light as though it were nourishment. They say it is not superstition, but a reminder that breath can be more than air, it can be light, peace, compassion itself. You imagine yourself under the same moon, inhaling silver light, exhaling warmth. Isn't it curious how imagination, when softened by sincerity, can actually calm the body? You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, gentle, patient, unhurried. Each movement of the branches feels like an echo of your own breathing. The forest breathing with you. What would it be like? You wonder if every breath you took was shared, not just yours, but part of the great rhythm of the world. Zen masters might ask, when you breathe in, is it you who breathes, or the universe breathing through you? As the moonlight deepens, you picture Avalokiteshvara, often shown with 1,000 arms, each hand reaching out to help, and yet here, in the quiet of your own breath, you feel that presence not as an image but as a sensation, compassion rising and falling with every inhale. Every exhale, the longer you sit, the more you sense that you are not alone in this breathing. Every being is breathing with you. Every tree, every animal, every person across the world who sighs or inhales at this very moment. Your breath slows naturally, steady as the moon itself. Inhale, peace enters. Exhale, compassion flows. Inhale, light expands. Exhale, kindness drifts outward. And with each cycle, you feel Avalokiteshvara's presence not as a distant deity, but as something unfolding quietly within you, a reminder that compassion is your own deepest breath. The night grows more silent, your body more at ease, and you rest here in the moonlit breath, carried by Avalokiteshvara's gentle rhythm. Section 2. The moonlight rests gently across the forest clearing as you close your eyes and turn your attention inward. Beneath the steady rhythm of your breath, you notice something quieter, the subtle beat of your own heart. It pulses softly in your chest, a soundless drum that has kept you alive since the moment you were born. Tonight, you let yourself listen, not with your ears, but with your whole awareness. Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva of compassion, is said to hear the cries of the world, but to hear others clearly, you must first listen deeply to yourself. The Buddha taught that compassion begins within. When you meet your own suffering with understanding, you create the conditions to offer kindness outward. You feel your heart's rhythm like a gentle knocking, as though reminding you, I am here, I have always been here, and I will continue as long as you let me. Isn't it strange how often you forget the steady friend who beats inside you every moment of your life? There is a lesser-known Zen practice called listening meditation, where practitioners sit quietly with eyes closed and focus entirely on the inner sounds of the body, the pulse in their wrists, the hum in their ears, the breath in their nose. At first it feels odd, almost too subtle to notice, but slowly, the more they listen, the more they feel part of something larger, as though their heartbeat is not separate, but part of the rhythm of the earth itself. You imagine yourself practicing this now, your heart beating in time with the forest, with the wind outside, with the unseen ocean far away. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside again, carrying its soft hush into your awareness. It feels as though the forest is whispering back to your heartbeat, yes, I am here too. You wonder, what if every sound you ever hear is like the pulse of the world's heart? Zen masters might ask, if you listen closely enough, is there truly a boundary between your heart and the world's? As you sit quietly, a memory drifts in. Ajahn Chah once said, do not run away from your pain. Sit with it, listen to it. It has something to teach you. You realize that your heart does not only beat in moments of peace, it also carries your sorrows, your anxieties, your moments of loss. Yet here it is, still steady, still present. Could you offer it the same compassion you would offer a frightened child? Your breathing slows, and you place a hand over your chest, feeling the warmth of your palm meet the pulse beneath. The contact itself becomes a kind of reassurance, as if you are telling your own heart, I see you, I hear you, thank you for carrying me this far. It softens something inside you, does not it? Avalokiteshvara's presence is often imagined as infinite ears, hearing the cries of every being. But here, in the stillness, you realize those ears are also turned inward, listening to the faint voice of your own heart. Compassion is not rushing to fix, but gently listening, patiently holding. The forest is silent now except for the breeze, and your heart's rhythm feels like part of that silence, present but not loud, steady but not demanding. You breathe in, sensing kindness filling your chest. You breathe out, offering gratitude to the heart that never stops giving. And as you listen more deeply, you begin to understand Avalokiteshvara's gift is not only the ability to hear the suffering of others, but the willingness to listen to yourself with the same patience, the same love. Section 3. The night grows deeper, and the forest air feels heavy with stillness. You rise from where you have been sitting, moving slowly toward a wide clearing where the trees part and the sky stretches open. Above, countless stars shimmer like grains of light scattered across black silk. You pause here, your breath long and steady, and imagine the vastness of Avalokiteshvara's compassion, an ocean without shore. Stretching as far as you can see, the Buddha often compared compassion to water. It nourishes without discrimination, flowing wherever it is needed, whether to the low valleys or the high peaks. Standing beneath the stars, you picture Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva of boundless mercy. whose thousand arms reach in all directions, each hand offering help to a different being. It is not about quantity, it is about the quality of presence. Every arm extends from the same heart of compassion, and you wonder if one being can embody this vastness. What might happen if you let even a drop of that ocean flow through you? There is a quirky Zen story told of a monk who asked his master how to cultivate compassion when people seemed so difficult, so full of anger or ignorance. The master handed him a bucket and pointed to the river, saying, "Bring me all the water." The monk looked bewildered but obeyed, scooping and carrying water until his arms ached. Finally, the bucket slipped, spilling everything onto the ground. The master smiled and said, "Do you see? You cannot carry the whole river, but if you cup your hands, you can still drink." Compassion, like water, is not meant to be hoarded. It flows naturally when you stop trying to own it. You smile at the thought, how often do you exhaust yourself trying to carry what was never yours to hold? You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside the clearing, and it sounds like the hush of waves rolling across a distant shore. The rhythm lulls you, reminding you of the ocean's vastness. Isn't it interesting how the smallest sound can point to something infinite? Avalokiteshvara's compassion is said to arise when beings cry out in suffering. Like the ocean responding to every drop of rain, this bodhisattva responds to every cry with presence. You imagine those thousand arms not as myth, but as a teaching. Each arm is a possibility, a way you can show kindness in your own life. A hand to comfort, a word to soothe, a pause to listen, a breath to steady. Zen masters might ask, if you cannot grow 1,000 arms, can you not use the two you already have with love? Your breath deepens as you imagine waves moving through you. Inhale, the tide rises with compassion. Exhale, the tide flows outward to the world. The forest around you feels like part of this ocean. Each tree a vessel, each leaf a ripple, every creature floating in the same expanse. You notice how your chest softens when you stop trying to control, and instead, simply let the current carry you. The Buddha's teaching on metta, loving kindness, was often described as radiating like the ocean's waves, boundless. Without limit, you sit in this clearing, letting your own compassion radiate outward, first to yourself, then to those nearby, then to strangers, and finally to all beings. Like waves spreading without end, the night sky above seems endless. But in this moment, you feel no separation. Your small breath, your quiet heartbeat, the wind in the leaves, the stars above all belong to the same ocean. And in that belonging, you rest. Section 4. The clearing fades into quiet as you sit with the vast ocean of compassion still flowing through your breath. Nearby, on the damp earth, you notice a lotus bud standing upright in a shallow pool. Its petals are closed tightly, still wrapped against the night air. The moonlight brushes across it, and you sense that, given time, it will bloom into its full beauty. For now, though, it waits patient, steady, unhurried. The Buddha often used the lotus as a symbol of awakening. Though its roots sink deep into muddy water, the flower rises above the surface, unstained. Watching the bud before you, you feel its lesson settling inside. Patience is the quiet strength that allows beauty to unfold. Avalokiteshvara's compassion is not rushed, it waits, listens, and acts when the moment is right, like the lotus opening only when the sun warms its petals. There is a quirky Zen practice where monks sit by a lotus pond at dawn, watching the flowers open in real time. The process is slow, sometimes taking hours, yet they sit unmoving, eyes soft, simply breathing with the blossoms. They say it is a way of training patience, of letting nature teach them what no book can explain. Imagine yourself there, watching each petal loosen, listening not with impatience but with wonder. Isn't it interesting how beauty asks you to slow down to notice it? You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, blending with the faint croak of frogs near the pond. The forest seems to hum with a patient rhythm, as though reminding you that everything has its own timing. What would it be like, you wonder, if you stopped demanding that your life bloom faster? Zen masters might ask, can the lotus rush to open without tearing itself apart? Ajahn Chah once said, patience is the highest practice. He meant that when you stop fighting the pace of life, peace naturally appears. You think of your own days, how often you want results quickly, answers immediately, change without waiting. And yet, sitting here by the unopened lotus, you feel something different, a quiet trust that unfolding cannot be forced. Your breathing slows. Sensing with this lesson, inhale acceptance. Exhale trust. Each breath feels like a petal softening, preparing to open. You realize Avalokiteshvara's compassion is like this too, not hasty, not demanding, but infinitely patient. To hold suffering with compassion is to allow its space to soften in its own time. The lotus stands still, not yet in bloom, but already beautiful in its promise. You realize you do not need to see the full flower tonight. The waiting itself is part of the teaching, like the path of meditation. Every step, every pause, every breath is already complete. The moonlight deepens, and you rest by the water's edge, listening to the forest breathe with you, patient and unhurried. And here, with the lotus unopened, you find peace in the waiting itself. Section 5. The pond and its waiting lotus fade behind you as you follow a narrow path winding deeper into the forest. The ground rises gradually, and soon you reach the mouth of a cave carved into the hillside. The entrance yawns dark and cool, the air inside carrying the faint smell of stone and moss. You step slowly into the quiet, your footsteps echoing softly, each sound returning to you as though the cave itself were answering. Ajahn Chah once compared the mind to a cave, saying that when you bring light into it, shadows dance but eventually dissolve. Avalokiteshvara's compassion works in much the same way. It listens to echoes, not to chase them away, but to understand them. You sit down on a flat stone inside, feeling the cool surface beneath you, and close your eyes. The silence is deep, but not empty. Every sound you make, the breath in your nose, the beating of your heart comes back to you, softened. The Buddha taught that fear arises from clinging to self, to safety, to permanence. In this cave, with its deep shadows, fear can easily surface. The darkness suggests the unknown. Yet Avalokiteshvara's presence reminds you that fear, like is only a reflection of your own voice, returning to you until you listen. Isn't it curious how what seems external often begins within? There is a quirky story from Zen tradition about monks who would practice sitting in caves at night, chanting Avalokiteshvara's mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum. They believed the echoes themselves were part of the practice, multiplying their voices until it seemed as though countless beings were chanting alongside them. Alone, yet not alone. You imagine yourself whispering the mantra now, the syllables rolling gently off your tongue, and the cave answering back. The sound is not yours anymore, it belongs to the space, to the night, to the listening itself. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside the cave entrance, faint but persistent, blending with the drip of water from a stalactite deep inside. The sounds meet and fade together, neither loud nor soft, just part of the same rhythm. You wonder, if fear is only an echo, could compassion be the space that receives it? Zen masters might ask, when the echo fades, what remains, the sound, or the silence that holds it? As you breathe steadily, the cave says darkness no longer feels threatening. Instead, it becomes a cradle, a vast ear listening to your breath. You realize that Avalokiteshvara is not outside, not even 1,000 arms or ears, but in this very act of listening to fear, to longing, to the echoes of your own heart. Ajahn Chah once told a student frightened by the forest at night, "Don't run from the sound of tigers. Sit with your fear until it bows to you. You smile faintly, remembering the hungry dog and the laughing monk from before. Each story serves back patience with desire, humor with heaviness, compassion with fear. Tonight, the cave teaches the same. When you sit still, even fear becomes an echo that softens in the vastness of listening. You take another slow breath. Inhale, the cave fills with presence. Exhale, the echoes dissolve into stillness. And soon, the silence itself becomes Avalokiteshvara's voice, telling you gently, all is heard, all is held, nothing is rejected. You rest there, in the heart of the cave, with fear transformed into quiet acceptance, and silence blossoming into peace. Section 6. You leave the cool embrace of the cave and follow the winding trail back into the open night. The forest air feels softer now, as though the silence you found inside the stone walls has followed you out beneath the trees. Ahead, you see a monk seated on a wooden bench, his posture relaxed, his face calm. What strikes you most is not his stillness, but the gentle smile resting on his lips, unforced, unself-conscious, as natural as the moonlight above. Ajahn Chah often said, a simple smile is already a practice. He meant that equanimity, the balance of mind that neither clings to pleasure nor recoils from pain, can sometimes begin with something as small as the curve of your mouth. You sit nearby, letting the quiet presence of the monk's smile reach you. It does not demand anything of you. It does not say, be happy. It simply says, be here. The Buddhist teaching on equanimity, upekkha, describes a mind that stays steady through change, like a candle's flame shielded from the wind. This is not cold detachment, but a warm steadiness that allows compassion to flow without being swept away. You realize that Avalokiteshvara's boundless compassion must be rooted in equanimity. Without steadiness, 1,000 arms would quickly tire. The gentle smile is proof of this balance, a sign that compassion can be light and effortless when rooted in calm presence. There is a quirky story about Zen monks who practice smiling meditation. They sit with eyes closed, turning up the corners of their lips just slightly, even if they do not feel joy. At first it seems silly, but over time, the body and mind begin to align. The smile softens the breath eases the heart, and soon equanimity arises. You imagine yourself trying it now, letting a small smile form, not forced but gentle, like the monks. Isn't it interesting how even a slight shift in the body can ripple into the mind? You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, steady and soft, as though the forest itself is smiling back. The branches bend, not resisting, not clinging, simply moving with what is. You wonder, what would it be like if you met your own life this way, with a smile that did not depend on things being perfect? Zen masters might ask, can you smile at the rain as easily as you smile at the sun? Sitting with the monk, you feel how the smile changes the atmosphere. Even without words, the space becomes lighter, more open. Your own worries seem smaller, as though they too have softened at the edges. Ajahn Chah once told his students, when the mind is balanced, even pain is easier to bear. You realize equanimity is not about escaping difficulty, but about greeting it with the same gentle steadiness as joy. Your breath deepens. Inhale peace. Exhale balance. With each cycle, your own face relaxes, your jaw loosens, your shoulders ease. The smile on your lips feels less like an effort and more like a reflection of what is settling inside you. The monk beside you says nothing, yet his smile speaks volumes. Compassion does not always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Peace does not always arrive with silence. Sometimes it arrives with a smile. You rest there in the soft night, your breath calm, your smile easy, your heart balanced, And slowly you realize that this simple act, this gentle smile, is Avalokiteshvara's presence manifesting in you, steady and compassionate, at home in every moment. Section 7. The night air cools as you rise from the bench where the smiling monk sat. You walk slowly down a sloping path until you hear the sound of water moving gently over stone. The forest parts to reveal a river glistening beneath the moonlight, its surface shifting in silver ripples. You sit by the bank, watching the current flow, never hurried, never stalled, carrying leaves, twigs, and reflections alike without complaint. The Buddha once compared compassion to water, saying it nourishes all beings without judgment. Avalokiteshvara, too, is often described as a river of mercy, flowing endlessly, reaching even the most hidden places of pain. You look at the river and sense this truth. The water does not ask if what it carries is worthy, it simply flows, offering itself without condition. And you wonder, what would it mean to let your own heart flow like this? Not stopping to decide who deserves your kindness. A Zen story comes to mind about a monk who was asked how to practice forgiveness. He scooped up a handful of water and poured it back into the river, saying, "Do you see? The river never holds grudges. It accepts everything, even what was once mud, and keeps flowing clear." The lesson is quirky but clear. Compassion is not about holding on, but about release. You imagine letting your own grudges dissolve into the current, carried away to the vast ocean where they no longer weigh you down. Isn't it interesting how forgiveness is less about the other person and more about freeing yourself? You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, mingling with the river's steady murmur. Together they sound like a chorus of patience. The forest and water in conversation. You lean closer to the current, listening as though the river is whispering a mantra just for you. Zen masters might ask, if the river can forgive everything it touches, can you forgive the moments that touch you? As you breathe, you notice how your body mirrors the river. Inhale, drawing in freshness. Exhale, releasing what no longer serves you. Each cycle of breath feels like water passing through, cleansing, renewing, moving on. Ajahn Chah once told his students, "Let go a little, and you will have a little peace. Let go a lot, and you will have a lot of peace." You see this teaching reflected in the river. Every moment it lets go of itself, becoming new again, clear again. You think of people who may have hurt you, or times when you have carried resentment like heavy stones in your chest. Tonight, by the river's edge, you imagine placing those stones in the current. The water does not resist, it welcomes them, tumbles them smooth, and carries them away. For a moment, you feel lighter, as though space has opened in your heart. Forgiveness here is not dramatic, it is as gentle as a river flowing quietly in the dark. The moon drifts higher, painting the current with silver light. The river does not cling to this light, nor does it mourn when clouds pass and shadows return. It flows through brightness and darkness alike, unchanged in its offering. You realize Avalokiteshvara's compassion is the same, steady, unconditional, unending. You close your eyes, resting with the sound of water and wind. The river continues to flow, as it always has, as it always will, and in its rhythm, you feel your own heart learning to flow too. Forgiving, releasing, carrying mercy without measure. Section 8. The sound of the river lingers in your ears as you rise and follow a small lantern path, leading back toward the heart of the monastery. Along the way, you notice the soft glow of a single candle flickering in the window of a meditation hall. Drawn to its quiet light, you step inside. The room is nearly bare, just tatami mats, a low altar, and that candle burning steadily at the center. Its flame wavers slightly with the movement of air, yet it does not go out. Ajahn Chah once said, "The mind trained in mindfulness is like a candle sheltered from the wind." You settle on the floor before the flame, breathing slowly, letting its steady glow draw your attention inward. You notice how the flame bends but never breaks, how it sways yet holds its form. Isn't that the essence of steadiness, not the absence of movement, but the ability to remain alight in the middle of change? The Buddha taught about samadhi, concentration, the collectedness of mind that arises when attention no longer scatters. Watching the candle, you see this teaching alive before you. The flame does not chase after every draft, it remains itself. Likewise, your own attention, when rooted in breath, can stay steady even as thoughts drift in and out. You breathe in with the flame, breathe out with the flame, and slowly, your restless mind feels less like a storm and more like a calm sky. There is a quirky Zen practice where monks would meditate while staring at a single candle flame for hours. Some even described seeing the flame continue behind their closed eyelids, as though it had imprinted itself on their awareness. The practice was not about hallucination, it was about learning how steady focus could illuminate even inner darkness. You imagine yourself closing your eyes now, and still sensing that glow within, a light no wind can extinguish. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, faint but insistent, a reminder that the world is never without movement. Yet here inside, the candle continues to shine. You wonder, what would it be like if your heart could remain like this flame, present, steady, undisturbed while the winds of life passed by? Zen masters might ask, is the flame strong because the wind stops, or because it learns to bend? Your breathing deepens, each inhale feeding the flame within you, each exhale softening its glow into calm presence. You recall the river of mercy you just left behind, and now you see how compassion and concentration flow together. The river teaches release, the candle teaches steadiness. Together they form Avalokiteshvaras, way boundless compassion rooted in unwavering attention. Ajahn Chah once joked, when you chase after every thought, it is like trying to light candles in the rain. You smile at the memory, noticing how often you scatter yourself in daily life, jumping from worry to distraction, from noise to noise. But here, before this single flame, you feel the possibility of stillness, the possibility of holding steady. The candle burns lower, its wax pooling gently at the base, but its flame remains strong, unwavering. You realize that presence itself is like this, finite in form, infinite in light. The body may tire, the mind may drift, but awareness remains a flame that can always return. You close your eyes, breathing with the candle, holding steady attention in the middle of change. And in that glow, you feel Avalokiteshvara's compassion shining quietly within you, a light that bends but never breaks. Section 9. You leave the meditation hall with the candle's glow still flickering in your memory. Outside, the air is cool and damp, and the moon has slipped behind thin clouds, softening the forest in silver shadow. Following a winding trail, you come upon a small wooden bridge stretching across a quiet stream. The boards are worn smooth by countless footsteps, and as you step onto it, the wood creaks gently under your weight. The bridge feels symbolic, something built not to separate, but to connect. Avalokiteshvara's compassion is often described as a bridge of kindness, reaching across divisions, carrying beings from suffering to peace. You pause in the middle of the bridge, leaning on the simple railing, watching the stream flow beneath. Every drop of water flows from one side to the other, unhesitating, unstopped. And you sense the teaching here. Compassion is the bridge, action is the crossing, and every breath is a step. The Buddha taught interdependence, that all beings are connected, woven together like the planks of this bridge. When one suffers, all are touched. When one heals, that healing ripples outward. Looking at the stream below, you imagine Avalokiteshvara's 1,000 arms not as separate hands, but as bridges, each one carrying someone safely across the waters of difficulty. Isn't it interesting how even the smallest act of kindness, a word, a smile, a pause to listen can become a bridge for another's heart? There is a quirky Zen story about a monk who spent years building bridges in rural villages. When asked why he did not meditate more, he said, "When I make a bridge, people cross. When I make a bridge, I cross too." His practice was not just sitting still, it was every plank he laid down, every connection he helped others make. You imagine this monk, hammer in hand, smiling as much at the ladder of children crossing as at the silence of meditation. Sometimes kindness is the most practical practice of all. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, blending with the stream's gentle burble below. The sounds together feel like whispers reminding you that nothing exists alone. The wind touches the leaves. The leaves touch the water touches the air again. You wonder, how many unseen bridges have carried you here tonight, teachers, friends, even strangers who showed kindness when you needed it most? Zen masters might ask, if every breath connects you to all life, are you not already crossing the bridge of kindness with each inhale and exhale? You take a slow breath, imagining your inhalation as stepping onto the bridge, and your exhalation as offering a hand to another. Inhale, receiving kindness. Exhale, sharing it back. With each breath, you feel the bridge expand, no longer just wooden planks, but a path of connection stretching in every direction. Ajahn Chah once reminded his students, do not underestimate small kindnesses. A single drop can swell the ocean. Standing here, you sense the truth of that. The bridge beneath you may be small, but it transforms what would otherwise be separation into union. Your own gestures of kindness, however small, can do the same. The night deepens, the stream glimmers faintly, and you linger in the middle of the bridge, breathing slowly, feeling connected not just to the water below, but to the countless unseen beings who walk their own bridges in silence. And as you stand there, Avalokiteshvara's presence feels near, reminding you that compassion is not a distant shore, but the bridge you are already walking with every mindful step. Section 10. The bridge rests quietly behind you as you walk deeper into the night. The forest path narrows, winding between tall trees whose branches reach overhead like gentle arms. The stream fades into silence, and even the wind grows softer, until all that remains is the faint rhythm of your breath. Each inhale feels like the whole world arriving, each exhale like the world returning to stillness. Ahead, you find a small clearing where the earth is smooth and open to the sky. The clouds drift away, and the moon reveals itself once more, luminous and full, pouring silver light across the ground. You sit here, cross-legged on the cool earth, and simply breathe. There is no candle, no bridge, no river, only silence wrapping itself around you like a blanket. Avalokiteshvara's compassion is said to be boundless. Yet here in this silence you realize it is not far away or difficult to find. It is already present in the stillness of your breath, in the beat of your heart, in the way the world continues quietly even when you stop trying to control it. The Buddha once said, "Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without." Tonight, you feel that truth as naturally as the moonlight on your skin. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside so faint. It sounds more like a sigh than a song. Isn't it beautiful how the world continues to breathe even when you fall silent? You wonder, if Avalokiteshvara's 1,000 ears can hear every cry, can they also hear the silence? This deep calm within, Zen masters might ask, is silence the absence of sound, or the presence of everything at rest? There is a story from Zen tradition about a monk who asked how to know when his practice was complete. His teacher simply closed his eyes, smiled, and said nothing. The monk waited, listening to the silence. And in that silence, his restless questions fell away. You imagine yourself in that same moment, no answer, no instruction, only the gentle weight of quiet filling every space. Perhaps Avalokiteshvara's greatest teaching is not in words, but in this invitation to rest. Your breath slows, each inhale deep and full, each exhale long and releasing. Inhale presence, exhale peace. With every cycle, your body grows heavier, your mind softer, until it feels as though the earth itself is holding you. The night sky stretches endlessly above, stars blinking faintly, the moon steady. You realize that your own inner stillness is no different, vast, steady, always available, even when hidden by passing clouds of thought. Ajahn Chah once told his students, "Peace is already here, like water at the bottom of the well. You only need to stop stirring." Tonight, you feel you have stopped stirring at last. The echoes of the cave, the river's mercy, the candle-cess flame, the bridge of kindness, all of them return now in memory, weaving together into a single thread of compassion that leads back to this silence. You rest in the clearing, the forest quiet around you, the moon watching overhead. Avalokiteshvara's presence no longer feels like a distant figure with many arms, but like your own breath, your own heart, your own gentle awareness. Compassion, you realize, is not something you must reach for. It is the silence within you, already complete. As your breath slows, feel every worry slip away, like leaves floating down a quiet stream. Peace is here, always has been. Story 3. The Path to Inner Peace, Breathing with Avalokiteshvara. Compassionate Presence at Night. Section 1. Hey guys. Tonight we are going to explore some timeless Zen stories that have helped people find peace and relaxation for centuries. If your mind's been racing all day, these tales might gently pull you back to the stillness waiting within. In our busy lives, it is easy to forget that calm is not out there, it is already yours to uncover. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you feel like sharing, post your location and local time in the comments. It is always so heartwarming to see where everyone is listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let us ease into tonight's journey together. The moon rises high above you, draping the forest in soft silver light. You sit down on a smooth stone at the edge of a clearing. The earth cool beneath you. Around you, tall trees sway gently, their leaves whispering with the rhythm of the night. You close your eyes, and immediately, the first thing you notice is your breath. Inhale, cool and spacious. Exhale, warm and releasing. Already, the simple act of breathing feels like stepping into another world, a quieter. Kunda 1. Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion, is said to embody the act of listening to the cries of the world. But before listening outward, you listen inward, to your own breathing. Each inhale gathers calm, each exhale shares ease. It is as if Avalokiteshvara breathes through you, reminding you that compassion begins as softly as this breath, expanding gently until it touches everything. The Buddha taught that mindfulness of breathing, anapanasati, is a gateway to peace. He said that to know your breath is to know your mind. When your breathing is shallow, hurried, scattered, is not your mind often the same? And when your breath slows, deepens, steadies, your thoughts too begin to quiet. You breathe in, and the night feels fuller. You breathe out, and something inside you lets go. There is a quirky Zen practice where monks sit under the moon and imagine that with each inhale, they are breathing in the moon's light, and with each exhale, they are radiating that same light back into the world. It is not magic, it is a way of training the heart to feel interconnected. You picture yourself trying it now, inhaling silver light, filling your chest, exhaling that same light outward, soft and kind. Isn't it curious how imagination, when paired with sincerity, becomes a real medicine for the mind? You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, nature's own lullaby, is not it? The sound matches the rhythm of your breath, as if the whole forest is inhaling and exhaling with you. What would it mean if this were not just imagination, but reality, that your breath and the world's breath were the same? Zen masters might ask, when you inhale, where do you end and the world begin? Ajahn Chah once said, if you want to understand the mind, watch the breath. If you want to understand compassion, breathe with the world. Tonight, you sense both teachings blending together. Inhale, calm enters. Exhale, compassion flows. Each cycle feels less personal, less mine, and more like a current moving through you, carrying you into a vast ocean of presence. The moonlight touches your closed eyelids, and your breathing grows slower, smoother. Avalokiteshvara's presence is no longer just a story, it feels alive in your chest. In the rise and fall of your breath, compassion does not arrive all at once, it begins here, in the patient rhythm of breathing, one cycle at a time. Section 2. The moon remains high, its soft glow slipping through the canopy as you stay seated, your body calm, your breathing steady. Beneath the rhythm of the breath, another sound emerges, the gentle pulse of your heart. You bring your hand to your chest and feel it there. Steady, unwavering. It has been with you since the beginning, beating through every joy and sorrow, never asking for thanks. Tonight, you let yourself listen to it as if it were a teacher. The Buddha often reminded his followers that compassion begins with yourself. To offer care outward, you must first learn to recognize the life pulsing within you, moment by moment. Listening to your heartbeat now, you realize it is not just a biological rhythm, it is a reminder that you are alive. Here, breathing in this very moment. Isn't it strange how easily you overlook this constant companion, only noticing it in moments of stress or silence? There is a lesser-known Zen practice where monks sit quietly in darkness and place both hands over their heart. They listen not just for the beat, but for what it represents, the flow of life, the reminder of fragility, and the invitation to gratitude. They say the heart's pulse is Avalokiteshvara's drum, sounding compassion within every living being. You imagine this now? The thump in your chest echoing in the forest night? Sensing with unseen hearts beating across the world. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside again, faint and low, like a whispering response to your heartbeat. The forest breathes, your chest rises, the pulse continues, all part of one vast rhythm. What if every sound, every breath, every beat was the universe listening through you? Zen masters might ask. When you hear your heart, are you hearing yourself, or hearing the world beating through you? Ajahn Chah once said, if you cannot be kind to yourself, how will you ever be kind to others? Listening to your heart now, you feel that kindness forming not as self-indulgence, but as recognition. This heart has carried you tirelessly. Perhaps it deserves your gratitude, your gentleness. You soften your hand against your chest, as if to say, thank you. As you breathe with your heartbeat, compassion begins to ripple outward. You imagine someone you care about, their heart beating like yours. You imagine a stranger, far away, yet with the same steady rhythm within their chest. Even those you find difficult, even those you cannot understand, they too live by this same fragile drum. In this moment, Avalokiteshvara's teaching becomes clear. All hearts beat together in the silence of night. Your breath deepens, and you notice how your body sways slightly with each pulse. Like a tree moved gently by the wind, the more you listen, the less separate you feel. The monk who once sat smiling in the dark comes back to mind. Remember the one who laughed at the rooster's interruption. That same lightness now reaches you. Life is not about silencing every sound, but listening deeply until even the noise becomes music. The night is very still, yet full. You sit with your hand over your chest, listening not only to your own heart, but to the echo of countless unseen hearts beating alongside you. Avalokiteshvara's compassionate presence feels less like an image now, and more like a shared pulse. Steady and unbroken, inhale life enters, exhale life continues. The heart beats on, reminding you that compassion is already within you, as close as this quiet rhythm in your chest. Section 3. The steady rhythm of your heart fades into the background. Like a drumbeat guiding you deeper into the night, you walk slowly along a path lined with tall bamboo, their hollow trunks swaying gently as the breeze moves through. The stalks creak and whisper against one another, creating a sound like waves against the shore. Soon, the path widens, and you step into a clearing where the trees part to reveal the vast night sky. Stars spill across the heavens, countless points of light shimmering against endless darkness. Looking upward, you imagine Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva of compassion, whose 1,000 arms reach in all directions. Each hand carries a tool, a lotus, a bell, a rope, a vessel, symbols of skillful means to help all beings. Yet as you gaze at the stars, you realize this is not just myth. The 1,000 arms are like the stars themselves, infinite expressions of mercy stretching across the sky. Avalokiteshvara does not exist as a single figure apart from the world the bodhisattva lives in every gesture of kindness, every word of comfort, every breath of care. The Buddha once taught that compassion is anatta, not mine or yours, but boundless. Without self, to love without limit is to recognize that your kindness does not come from you alone. Like the ocean, it flows freely, touching everything it meets. You picture the stars above not as distant, but as waves of light rippling across space, just as compassion ripples across the human heart. Isn't it beautiful how something so vast can also be so intimate? There is a quirky Zen story about a monk who complained he could never love enough people, never help enough beings. His master took him to the edge of the sea and said, "Try to scoop up all the water." The monk bent down, struggling to fill a small bowl, and of course failed. The master laughed, pointing at the horizon. "Why struggle to carry the ocean? Be like the sea itself, vast, unmeasured, without shores." You smile at the memory of the story. How often do you try to measure your kindness, wondering if it is enough? Instead of letting it flow without counting, you hear the wind rustling the leaves outside. Softer now, blending with the creak of bamboo like the hush of waves. The sound carries you deeper into the metaphor. Compassion, like the sea, has tides. Some days it rises high, some days it recedes, yet the ocean never disappears. And neither does the capacity for mercy in the human heart. What would happen if you trusted that, even when your compassion feels small, the larger ocean is still there, carrying you too? Zen masters might ask, is a wave ever separate from the sea? As you breathe, you picture yourself inhaling the vastness of this ocean, cool, boundless, steady. Exhaling, you imagine sending that vastness outward, rippling across the forest, across the world, touching even those you will never meet. Avalokiteshvara's 1,000 arms no longer feel like a story from sutras. They feel like your own breath, extended into the world. Ajahn Chah once said, "Do not underestimate small acts. A spoon of salt in a glass makes it bitter. But in the ocean, it is nothing." Your kindness may feel like a spoon of water, yet in the ocean of compassion, it joins something infinite. The stars above shimmer brighter, as if nodding in agreement. The night no longer feels empty, but full of mercy without end, full of arms unseen, full of a love that does not ask who is worthy. You sit in the clearing, breathing with the sky, resting in an ocean without shores. Section 4. The clearing beneath the stars feels endless, yet your steps guide you back toward a pond nestled in the forest's quiet heart. The surface is smooth as glass, reflecting the moon and stars above, and near the water's edge you see a single lotus bud standing tall. Its green stem rises straight from the mud, the petals still closed tightly, wrapped against the night air. You crouch nearby, gazing at it in silence, and feel its presence speaking without words. The bud often compared awakening to the lotus. Though rooted in the mud, it grows upward through the water, emerging into air and light. Its beauty does not deny the mud below it rises because of it. Looking at the closed bud, you realize patience is what allows the lotus to bloom. It does not rush. It does not force itself open. In its waiting, there is strength, and in its timing, there is wisdom. Ajahn Chah once said, "Patience is the highest practice." He meant that when you stop demanding that life move according to your schedule, you discover freedom. Sitting before the lotus, you sense this truth directly. How often do you want answers quickly? Change immediately. Progress without delay? Yet the lotus reminds you, growth cannot be hurried. Each petal unfolds only when it is ready. Isn't it curious how beauty often hides in the waiting? There is a quirky practice in some Zen temples where monks sit at dawn by lotus ponds. Watching flowers open slowly with the rising sun, they remain motionless for hours, observing petal by petal, learning patience through nature itself. You imagine yourself joining them, time slipping away unnoticed, the world pausing as you witness the quiet miracle of unfolding. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, mingling with the soft croak of frogs across the pond. The forest itself seems to breathe in rhythm with the lotus, waiting without hurry, patient in its silence. What if you allowed your own life to unfold this way? Zen masters might ask. When a flower is forced to bloom too soon, does it not tear itself apart? Your breath deepens as you sit in reflection. Inhale trust in the process. Exhale release of control. Each breath feels like another petal loosening, not because you command it, but because you allow it. Avalokiteshvaras, compassion, too, is patient. To hold suffering with care means not rushing it away, but giving it the time it needs to soften. The lotus before you remains closed tonight, but somehow you see its beauty already. Its promise is enough. You realize you do not need the final flower to feel peace. The waiting itself is part of the path. Like your own journey, the practice of compassion is not a single moment of blooming, but a gradual unfurling. The moonlight shimmers across the pond, and your body feels steady, patient, rooted. You sit with the unopened lotus, not wishing it forward, but resting in what is, breathing as it breathes, waiting as it waits. Section 5. The pond and its waiting lotus stay in your memory as your feet carry you deeper into the forest. The trail curves upward until you reach the dark mouth of a cave. Cool air drifts outward, carrying the scent of damp stone and moss. You step slowly inside, your footsteps echoing against the walls, each sound returning to you softer, fainter, like a question whispered back. The Buddha once said that fear arises when the mind clings to self, to control, to permanence. In the cave, shadows stretch long, and fear can easily arise. Yet Avalokiteshvara's compassion is said to be like an ear that listens to every cry, even the cry of fear. You sit down on a flat rock in the cave, close your eyes, and let the echoes surround you. Each sound becomes a reminder. Fear is only an echo, not the substance itself. Isn't it curious how what you resist most often turns out to be your own voice? Reflected back, in Tibetan stories, Avalokiteshvara is invoked through the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum. Monks chanted in caves like this, letting their voices bounce against stone until it feels as if thousands are chanting with them. Alone, yet never alone. You whisper the mantra now, quietly, Om Mani Padme Hum. The syllables roll gently into the air, and the cave answers, multiplying your voice until it feels larger than you. The sound is no longer yours, it belongs to the space, to the night, to the silence holding it. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside the cave entrance, blending with the steady drip of water inside. Together, the sounds weave into a pattern, one faint, one clear, yet both part of the same moment. Avalokiteshvara's compassion is like this too, holding both fear and peace in the same embrace. Zen masters might ask, when an echo fades, what remains, the sound or the silence that received it? Ajahn Chah once told a frightened monk who heard animals in the forest at night, "Don't run from your fear. Sit with it until it bows to you. You remember the hungry dog circling in its restless need." The monk laughing freely at the rooster's cry, each teaching points to this same truth. Fear loses power when you meet it with presence. Sitting in the cave, you realize Avalokiteshvara's listening is not about banishing fear, but holding it tenderly. The way the cave holds every echo, your breathing steadies. Inhale, the mantra fills the space. Exhale, the echoes return as comfort. Slowly, the darkness stops feeling threatening. It becomes vast, welcoming, almost womb-like. The shadows are no longer strangers, they are companions, softened by the sound of your own voice resting in Avalokiteshvara's name. The cave grows quieter as you stop chanting, but the stillness feels alive, as though the mantra continues silently, vibrating in the stone itself. You rest in that silence, no longer afraid, but cradled. Section 6. You step out of the cave, the cool air giving way to the forest's softer warmth. The moonlight greets you again, silvering the leaves. And in the clearing ahead you notice a monk sitting on a low bench beneath a banyan tree. His back is straight, his eyes half closed, and on his lips rests a smile not wide, not forced, but light, effortless, like the curve of the moon itself. Ajahn Chah often said, a simple smile can already be meditation. You watch the monk's quiet face, and you realize the smile is not about amusement or joy, it is about balance. His expression holds both peace and awareness, not tilting toward delight or sorrow. This is equanimity, a mind steady through change, neither clinging to pleasure nor recoiling from pain. It is not cold detachment, but a warmth so calm that it does not need to grasp. The Buddha taught upekkha, equanimity, as one of the highest qualities of the heart. Without balance, compassion can burn out like a candle in the wind, but with equanimity, compassion endures steady, glowing, endless. Watching the monk smile, you sense Avalokiteshvara's 1,000 arms rooted in this very stillness. Without balance, they would collapse under the weight of suffering. With balance, they reach out endlessly, untiring. There is a quirky practice in Zen temples called smiling meditation. Monks sit quietly with the faintest smile on their lips, even if no happiness is present. At first it feels artificial, but over time the body teaches the mind, the smile softens the breath eases the heart, and balance begins to arise naturally. You try it now, letting your lips curve gently, just enough to notice. Isn't it curious how even the smallest gesture in the body can ripple into peace in the mind? You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, and suddenly it sounds almost playful, like laughter hidden in the trees. The forest smiles back at you, its branches swaying with ease. What if you could meet life like this with a smile that is not dependent on perfection? Zen masters might ask, if the storm can bend the tree, can it not also bend your frown into a smile? Your breath slows as you practice. Inhale, balance enters. Exhale, peace spreads. The smile feels less like effort now, more like reflection, as though it were always waiting there. You think back to the laughing monk under the stars, the one who laughed freely at the rooster's crow. His joy was compassion's lightness. This smile is compassion's steadiness. Together they form a whole, the playfulness of Avalokiteshvara's laughter, the serenity of Avalokiteshvara's smile. Ajahn Chah once told his students, "When the mind is balanced, even pain is bearable. Without balance, even joy becomes fragile. You let this teaching settle within you, as naturally as the smile now resting on your own face. The monk under the banyan tree does not move, does not speak, yet his smile is enough. It teaches without words, reminding you that compassion does not always roar. It sometimes arrives as quietly as this, a gentle curve of the lips, steady, unwavering. You sit nearby, breathing with him, your own smile easy, your heart balanced, Avalokiteshvara's equanimity alive in the silence of the night." Section 7. You rise from the banyan tree where the monk's smile still lingers in your memory and follow the forest path until you hear the soft murmur of water. The moonlight guides you to a river bank where the current flows gently, waving silver ribbons across its surface. You sit at the edge, the cool earth beneath you, and watch the water moving ceaselessly downstream. The Buddha once said that compassion is like water, it nourishes without choosing. The river does not decide who may drink, it simply flows, giving itself freely to all. As you gaze at the current, you see Avalokiteshvara's presence here too. Compassion is not meant to be hoarded or measured. It is meant to flow, to forgive, to release. A Zen story comes to mind. A monk once asked how to practice forgiveness when anger felt too heavy to let go. His teacher pointed to the river and said, "Do you see it? The water accepts mud and waste alike, and still it clears itself by moving on. It does not stop to argue. You imagine your own grudges as stones dropped into the water. The current carries them away without hesitation. Isn't it interesting how the river does not deny the weight of what enters it, it transforms it through movement, not resistance. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, blending with the soft gurgle of water over rocks. The two sounds harmonize, reminding you that compassion also flows best when joined with patience. What if forgiveness were not a single act, but a river, always flowing, always available? Zen masters might ask, when you drink from the river, do you ever touch the same water twice? Ajahn Chah once said, letting go is like unclenching the hand. The more you hold, the more it hurts. When you release, the hand rests. Sitting here, you see the same lesson in the river. When the water meets an obstacle, it does not clench or resist, it moves around it. Soft yet unstoppable, you ask yourself quietly, what would it feel like to let your heart flow like this? Carrying away what no longer serves you. Your breath deepens, inhale, freshness enters. Like the river's source. Exhale, release flows outward. Like the stream moving on, you picture hurts you have held onto sharp words. Unmet expectations. Disappointments, one by one. You drop them into the current. The water does not cling to them. It carries them effortlessly, leaving you lighter with every breath. The moonlight dances on the river's surface, sparkling like Avalokiteshvara's 1,000 arms reaching outward. Each glimmer feels like a reminder that compassion does not stop at forgiveness of others, it includes yourself too. Just as the river accepts fallen leaves, you too can accept your own mistakes, letting them float downstream without blame. The night grows quieter. Only the river speaks, its steady flow a lullaby of release. You close your eyes, and the current seems to pass through you as much as beside you. Compassion becomes not a task, but a natural rhythm, flowing, forgiving, carrying all things forward. Section 8. You leave the river behind, its flowing mercy still echoing in your breath. The forest path winds back toward the heart of the monastery, where you notice a faint orange glow flickering ahead. As you draw closer, you step into a small meditation hall. The space is nearly bare, smooth mats on the floor, wooden beams overhead, and at the center, a single candle resting on a low altar. The flame burns steadily, its glow casting gentle shadows on the walls. At times it leans to one side when a breeze slips through, but it never falters. You sit before it, letting your gaze soften, the light reflecting faintly in your eyes. The Buddha taught about samadhi, concentration, the collectedness of mind. He compared it to a flame sheltered from the wind, unwavering and bright. As you watch the candle, you begin to see why. The flame is not stiff. It bends. It sways. Yet it holds its form. In the same way, a steady mind does not mean one without movement. It means one that remains clear even when life stirs around it. There is a quirky Zen practice where monks meditate on a candle flame for hours, their eyes fixed gently on the light. Some say that when they finally close their eyes, the flame remains in their mind, glowing in the darkness. The practice is not about staring, it is about discovering the mind's ability to hold steady, to keep the light alive even when the world around flickers. You imagine yourself trying this now, the flame steady in front of you, the breath steady within you, both reflections of the same calm presence. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, and for a moment the candleless flame sways in the draft. Yet it does not go out. Isn't it interesting how strength can sometimes look like flexibility? What if your heart could meet life's winds this way, moving, yet unbroken? Zen masters might ask, is the flame steady because the wind stops, or because it learns to dance? Your breath slows as you mirror the flame. Inhale, light brightens within. Exhale, light softens but holds. With each cycle, your own awareness feels clearer, less scattered, more luminous. The restless thoughts that once darted like shadows begin to settle, as though they too are drawn to the flameless calm. Ajahn Chah once told his students, when you chase every thought, it is like trying to light candles in the rain. You smile faintly at the memory. How often in daily life do you scatter your energy, leaping from worry to distraction? Yet here, with this single flame, you realize peace comes from staying with one thing fully: breath, light, presence. The candle burns lower, its wax pooling at the base, yet the flame remains strong, unwavering. You realize that awareness itself is like this, finite in form, infinite in light. The body may tire, the mind may wander, but awareness always has the power to return. Steady, glowing, gentle, you close your eyes, and still the flame remains, glowing behind your lids. Avalokiteshvara's compassion feels like this too, not separate from you, but steady within you, bending with life's winds, never extinguished. Section 9. You rise from the meditation hall, the image of the candle flame still glowing softly in your mind. Outside, the night air greets you, cool and fragrant after drifting through pine and bamboo. The moon has shifted higher, and its light guides you to a narrow wooden bridge spanning a gentle stream. The boards creak under your steps, worn smooth by countless feet before yours. You pause in the middle, leaning lightly on the railing, and gaze at the water shimmering below. A bridge is a simple thing, yet it carries profound meaning. It connects what was once apart. Avalokiteshvara's compassion is often described as a bridge of kindness spanning fear, misunderstanding, or distance, offering safe passage where there once was only separation. Standing here, you realize compassion is not only an inner feeling but an action, a structure built moment by moment through how you choose to meet others. The Buddha taught interdependence, the truth that all beings are connected, just as each plank of wood relies on the others to make this bridge. You too are held up by countless beings: farmers who grew your food, strangers who built the roads you walk, teachers who shared their wisdom. Compassion is not something extra to add to life. It is the recognition of these unseen bridges already carrying you, Isn't it remarkable how many invisible supports guide you without your noticing? There is a quirky Zen tale of a monk who spent years traveling from village to village, not to preach, but to build bridges across rivers and streams. When asked why he did this instead of sitting in meditation, he replied, "When I build a bridge, others cross. When others cross, I cross too." His practice was not bound to the cushion, it was in every plank he laid, every connection he created. You imagine him smiling, hammer in hand, as much at ease as the monk sitting in stillness. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, mingling with the gentle gurgle of the stream beneath you. Together, the sounds remind you that everything is linked. The breeze touches the trees. The trees lean into the river. The water carries the moonlight. The moonlight finds your eyes. What would it mean to live your life aware of these bridges? Never alone. Always connected, Zen masters might ask. When you step onto a bridge, do you truly walk alone, or with every hand that built it? Your breath slows as you lean on the railing. Inhale, receiving kindness. Exhale, offering kindness back. Each breath feels like a step across the bridge, reminding you that connection is made not through grand gestures but through simple presence. One moment at a time, Ajahn Chah once reminded his students, do not underestimate small kindness. A single drop swells the ocean. Standing here, you sense the truth of his words. A smile to a stranger, a moment of patience. A listening ear, these are planks in the bridge of compassion, each one carrying someone safely across. The night deepens, the stream below gleams like silver thread, and you stand in the middle of the bridge, aware that you are both carried and carrying. Avalokiteshvara's thousand arms feel near again, not as distant myths, but as the countless connections that weave you to others, moment by moment, breath by breath. Section 10. The bridge remains behind you as you follow the path into the quiet heart of the forest. The night is deep now, the moon shining bright and full, its light spreading across the ground like silver cloth. You step into a wide clearing where the trees open up to the sky. The earth is soft beneath you, carrying the scent of pine and damp moss. You lower yourself to sit cross-legged, your body grounded, your breath steady. Everything around you has grown quiet. The river's murmur is distant now. The candles glow, only a memory. The laughter of monks replaced by stillness. Even the wind has softened into little sighs moving through the branches above. You realize this is the final teaching of the night. To return, again and again, to stillness. The Buddha taught that within silence lies the seed of wisdom. Avalokiteshvara, the listener of the world's cries, teaches the same, that true compassion comes not only from hearing suffering, but from resting deeply enough to respond without fear or haste. Sitting here, breathing with the quiet night, you feel that stillness settling into you like a calm lake under the moon. You recall the ocean without shores, vast and boundless. You remember the lotus of patience, waiting in the pond. You think of the cave's echoes that softened fear, the monk's gentle smile beneath the banyan tree, the river that forgave and released, the candle's flame steady in the wind, and the bridge of kindness that connected what once was separate. Each story circles back to this clearing, weaving together into the same truth. Compassion is not outside you. It is already here, within your breath, within your heart. There is a Zen story about a monk who asked his teacher when he would finally reach enlightenment. The teacher simply pointed to the sound of the wind in the trees. At first the monk did not understand, but over time he realized peace was never in the future. It was already in every breath, every sound, every step. You smile faintly at the memory, listening now to the same wind brushing through leaves overhead. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, soft, slow, almost like a lullaby. Isn't it beautiful how even silence contains a rhythm? Zen masters might ask. When nothing moves in you, what else is there to seek? Your breathing deepens. Inhale presence. Exhale release. With every breath, the stillness expands until it feels as though the forest, the sky, the moon, and your own heart are resting together in one great silence. Ajahn Chah once told his students, "Peace is already here, like water at the bottom of a well. You need only stop stirring." Tonight, you feel you have stopped stirring. The surface has cleared, and what remains is vast, quiet, luminous. You sit in the clearing, your body heavy with rest, your mind light with calm. Avalokiteshvara's 1,000 arms no longer feel far away, they feel like your own breath flowing outward, your own heart listening inward, your own silence holding everything. As your breath slows, feel every worry slip away, like leaves floating down a quiet stream. Peace is here, always has been. Story 4. Zen Stories for Sleep. The Lantern Festival. Light Within the Dark. Section 1. Hey guys. Tonight we are going to explore some timeless Zen stories that have helped people find peace and relaxation for centuries. If your mind's been racing all day, these tales might gently pull you back to the stillness waiting within. In our busy lives, it is easy to forget that calm is not out there, it is already yours to uncover. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you feel like sharing, post your location and your local time in the comments. It is always such a joy to see where everyone is tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let us ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself walking down a narrow path lined with lanterns, their soft glow casting golden pools of light on the earth. The air is warm with the scent of blooming night flowers, and the gentle hum of voices drifts from the village ahead. Tonight is the Lantern Festival, a night when people gather not only to celebrate but to remember, to honor what has passed, to release what no longer serves, and to welcome light within the dark. You step onto the riverbank, where hundreds of lanterns are arranged neatly on the ground, waiting to be lit. Their paper sides are painted with prayers, wishes, and names. Some are adorned with lotus petals, others with simple brush strokes. Yet each one carries a story, a heart's offering. You pick one up, feeling the fragile paper against your fingertips. Isn't it curious how something so delicate can hold so much meaning? The Buddha taught that all things are impermanent, like lanterns glowing for a single night. Their beauty lies in the fact that they cannot last. The flicker of light against the paper reminds you of your own life, bright, fragile, precious because it is brief. You breathe deeply, sensing the truth of impermanence not as loss but as tenderness. When you know something will not last forever, does not it become more beautiful? There is a Zen story of a master who once carried a lantern on a dark road. A traveler mocked him, saying, "Why carry light when the moon shines?" The master blew out the lantern, and the traveler stumbled in fear. Smiling, the master said, "The lantern is not for me, it is for those who walk beside me." You smile at the thought. The lanterns by the river tonight are the same, each one shining not only for its maker but for everyone who sees it. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, the sound mingling with laughter and soft chanting from the villagers. The forest feels alive, as though it too is leaning in to watch the lights. Zen masters might ask, if a lantern shines in the night, does it belong to the one who lit it, or to all who are guided by it? As the first lanterns are lit and placed on the river, you watch their glow ripple across the water. One light becomes many, spreading like stars scattered across the current. You hold your own lantern close, feeling the warmth of the flame inside. It is a reminder, even in darkness, light can be carried gently, shared freely, released with love. The night has only begun. But already, as you stand among the lanterns, you feel yourself sinking into calm, your breath slower, your body lighter, your mind quietly aglow with the same soft light that now shimmers across the river. Section 2. You kneel at the river's edge, your lantern in hand, the paper sides glowing faintly as the flame inside flickers against the dark. Around you, villagers bend low to set their lanterns upon the water, and slowly the current carries them away. A procession of lights begins to drift downstream, golden reflections trembling across the rippling surface. One by one, they depart from their maker's hands. No longer owned, no longer controlled, just floating freely into the night. The Buddha taught that impermanence, anicca, is the heart of existence. Nothing we hold remains the same. To watch these lanterns float away is to watch the truth of letting go. You may wish your lantern would linger, holding close, but the river insists otherwise. It teaches gently, release is the only way forward. You feel this lesson in your chest as your own lantern slips from your fingertips and joins the stream of glowing companions. There is a quirky story from a Zen temple where the monks held a lantern festival each year. But instead of setting them on water, they would carry them up a mountain path. At the peak, they would release them into the night wind, watching as flames danced and extinguished midair. The teaching was simple, whether carried by water or wind. Light has its moment, and then it fades. The joy is not in its lasting, but in its shining. Isn't it interesting how freedom comes when you stop asking a flame to burn forever? You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, mingling with the soft murmur of the river. The sounds merge with the sight of hundreds of lights drifting into distance. Some lanterns burn brightly, steady as stars. Others falter quickly, dipping into water and going dark. Yet both bright and brief belong to the same truth: they are impermanent. And they are beautiful. Zen masters might ask, if one lantern glows for an hour and another for a minute, is one more precious than the other? As you sit by the riverbank, you notice how the act of releasing light feels like releasing something within yourself. Worries you have carried, expectations you have held too tightly, seem to float downstream with the lanterns. Ajahn Chah once said, if you let go a little, you will have a little peace. If you let go a lot, you will have a lot of peace. Tonight, each lantern feels like a piece of letting go, carried away by the current. Your breath slows, in rhythm with the flowing water. Inhale, the lanterns glow brighter. Exhale, they drift farther. With every cycle, the act of watching becomes meditation itself. As though Avalokiteshvara's compassionate gaze flows through you, blessing each tiny flame, the villagers around you fall into a hush, their voices fading as they, too, watch the lights become distant points on the river. The night no longer feels crowded, it feels vast, open, infinite. The lanterns become stars reflected in water, and you can no longer tell where sky ends and river begins. You remain seated at the bank, heart softened, mind clear, resting in the simple truth: nothing lasts, and that is why it shines. Section 3. You remain by the riverbank as the lanterns drift farther away, their light softening into distant specks on the current. The voices of the villagers grow quieter too, laughter fading into whispers until only the sound of water and wind remains. And then, among the crowd, you notice a figure seated alone on a stone near the edge, a monk in simple robes. His head bowed slightly, his hands resting gently on his knees. He does not move, does not speak, does not even glance at the lanterns flowing past. He simply sits in silence, his stillness deeper than the night around him. At first, you wonder if he is missing the beauty of the festival. But then you sense it. His silence is the beauty. He is not apart from the moment, he is resting at the very center of it. The Buddha taught that true peace does not depend on outer conditions. Whether the lanterns are many or few, whether the festival is loud or quiet, The still mind remains luminous, like the moon hidden behind clouds yet never diminished. There is a quirky Zen practice known as wall-gazing meditation. Monks will sit for hours facing a plain wall, not watching lanterns or listening to chants, but simply observing their thoughts as they arise and dissolve. The wall offers nothing, no distraction, no entertainment, only the raw reflection of the mind. Over time, this practice reveals a truth. When you stop searching outside, the light you have been chasing shines from within. You imagine the monk on the stone now, as if he were gazing at a wall invisible to all but himself. Isn't it curious how doing nothing can sometimes reveal everything? You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, blending with the soft rush of the river. The monk's silence feels like part of that rhythm, not separate. You wonder, what would it be like if you, too, could sit without needing to chase after beauty? Without fearing to miss out, Zen masters might ask. When you stop seeking the lantern as glow, do you discover the lantern within? As you watch, a child runs past, laughing, pointing at the glowing river. The monk does not move, does not smile, yet something in his presence makes the laughter sound clearer, lighter, almost more real. His silence is not cold withdrawal, it is an embrace that allows everything else to shine more brightly. Ajahn Chah once told his students, "Stillness is not the absence of noise. It is the absence of grasping." Sitting here, you sense what he meant. The monk does not grasp at silence, nor at sound, nor at light. He rests like the river itself, moving, yet still. Your own breath slows as you sit nearby. Inhale, peace rises. Exhale, peace remains. Without effort, the monk's silence begins to settle in you as well. You realize you do not need to become him, do not need to master some distant practice. You only need to sit, breathe, and allow stillness to reveal itself. The lanterns continue downstream. But now, whether you look at them or not, the calm is already here. You sit beside the silent monk, two figures in the night, luminous without needing lanterns at all. Section 4. You sit quietly near the monk, your body resting against the cool earth. When the glow of the lanterns drifts farther downstream, their light softens into flickering reflections against the walls of houses nearby. You notice how the paper windows and stone walls capture the shifting glow, stretching and bending the lanterns into strange shapes. Perfect circle of light becomes an uneven oval. A sharp outline turns hazy. You realize you are not looking at the lanterns themselves anymore, only their shadows. The Buddha once compared human perception to watching shadows on a wall. What we see, hear, and think are often only reflections of reality, not reality itself. The flickering shapes across the houses remind you of this truth. The lanterns themselves are clear, steady in their form, yet their shadows appear distorted depending on the surface. Isn't it interesting how often we mistake these distortions for truth? There is a Zen story of a monk who meditated in a dark cave with only a single candle. One night, the candle burned low and cast a twisted, frightening shadow on the wall. Another monk entered and asked, "Are you afraid of the shadow?" The first monk smiled and blew out the candle, saying, "When the light goes, so does the fear." The story feels alive tonight as you watch the shadows stretch and dance. Fear, judgment, longing, are not they all just flickers cast by the mind? You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, carrying with it the faint laughter of children still playing by the river. The sounds feel clearer when you notice them without trying to label them, just sound. Just presence, Zen masters might ask. When you look at the shadow, do you forget the lantern? When you look at the thought, do you forget the mind behind it? Ajahn Chah once reminded his students, "Don't believe everything you think. Thoughts are only shadows of the truth." Watching the walls, you notice how quickly a shape shifts when the wind moves the flame. Thoughts too flicker this way, one moment sharp, the next distorted, then gone. The lantern itself, the clear awareness, is steady, but the shadows move endlessly. Your breath deepens. Inhale lantern light, exhale shadows fade. With each cycle, you feel less drawn into the flickering distortions and more anchored in the calm light within. The shadows are not enemies. They are reminders that what you see is not all there is. The silent monk nearby opens his eyes just slightly, gazing not at the river or the lanterns, but at the shadows themselves. His calm presence tells you that the practice is not to destroy illusions, but to recognize them as illusions. Shadows can dance all they want, you need only remember the lantern. The night deepens, the walls still flicker, and yet inside you, clarity begins to glow more steadily. Shadows no longer seem threatening. They are simply part of the dance of light, teaching you to look deeper, to rest in what is real. Section 5. You rise from your place near the walls and walk slowly back toward the riverbank, where families still linger with their lanterns. Among them you notice a small child holding a lantern almost too large for their hands. The paper sides glow warmly, and the child's face is lit with delight. They stumble a little as they carry it, the flame inside wobbling with each step, yet their joy is pure, unclouded by worry about whether the lantern will last or where it will drift once released. The Buddha often spoke of beginners' mind, the state of openness and curiosity that children embody naturally. To see without preconception, to touch without judgment, to marvel at what is simple. Watching the child, you realize how different this is from the way adults often hold lanterns with caution, with hopes, with prayers for the future. The child holds it only with wonder. Isn't it curious how innocence itself can be the purest form of wisdom? There is a Zen practice that echoes this truth. Monks sometimes intentionally approach familiar tasks as if for the very first time, tying their robe as though they have never tied a knot before. Eating rice as though they have never tasted food. It is quirky, even humorous, to watch seasoned practitioners move so slowly. But the point is clear. To return to beginner's mind is to return to life itself, fresh and unburdened. You imagine yourself holding a lantern like the child, forgetting whether it is fragile, forgetting whether it will float or sink, and simply feeling the glow in your hands. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, playful and light, as though teasing the flame in the child's lantern. The lantern wobbles, the flame flickers, and still the child giggles. Unafraid, Zen masters might ask, if the lantern goes out, does the light in your heart go with it? Ajahn Chah once said, when you let go of cleverness, you discover simplicity. In simplicity, peace is found. The child knows nothing of impermanence or philosophy, yet they embody the teaching without effort. Their laughter, their clumsy steps, their wide eyes, each is a lantern of its own, shining with the ease of not knowing. Your breath slows as you watch. Inhale the freshness of wonder, exhale the release of complexity. For a moment, you feel your own thoughts lighten, as though you, too, can see the world as brand new. The child's parents help guide the lantern into the river, their hands steadying the small flame. The lantern drifts away, joining the others, its glow no different, yet somehow more radiant for the innocence that released it. You watch until it merges into the stream of light, carrying with it the sound of the child's laughter still echoing in your mind. You remain by the riverbank, smiling softly, realizing that beginner's mind does not mean being childish, it means being open, present, and willing to marvel. The lanterns drift, the night deepens, and you sit quietly, holding that same sense of wonder in your own heart. Section 6. The laughter of the child fades into the distance as you stay seated by the river. The lanterns continue their journey downstream, glowing softly in clusters, breaking apart, then drifting together again. Suddenly, a breeze moves across the water, Stronger than before, some lanterns wobble, their flames bending low. A few sputter out, leaving only dark paper shells floating aimlessly on the current. Others flare brightly, dancing wildly in the wind before settling back into a steady glow. The Buddha taught that change anicca is the nature of all things. No flame is safe from the wind, no moment stays fixed. Watching the lanterns struggle and endure, you feel this truth deepen in your chest. The wind does not ask permission before it comes. It arrives. It stirs. It moves on. The lesson is not to resist the wind, but to recognize that flickering is part of the flame's life. Isn't it curious how even the unsteady moments reveal the strength of what continues? There is a quirky Zen practice where monks meditate outdoors on stormy nights. Their robes flapping, hair soaked, candles blown out again and again. They call it wind practice. They do not shield themselves. Instead, they sit fully exposed, learning to accept what arrives. It may sound strange, but the teaching is simple. If you can breathe with the storm, you can breathe with anything. You picture yourself among them. Rain dripping, wind howling, yet still breathing. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside. Louder now, carrying the sound of the river in gusts. The branches creak and sway, their shadows shifting across the water. Zen masters might ask, when the flame flickers, do you call it weak or alive? Ajahn Chah once told his students, if you cling to calm, you will suffer when it changes. True peace is not the absence of disturbance, but freedom in the midst of it. You remember this as you watch a lantern nearly tip, its flame nearly die, before righting itself again. Even in its trembling, there is beauty. Your breath follows the rhythm of the wind. Inhale, the flame bends. Exhale, the flame steadies. You realize that your own heart, too, flickers with life's breezes, sometimes bright, sometimes dim, but always real. Always alive, the wind begins to ease, and the lanterns find their steadiness once more. Those that went dark drift silently, reminders of impermanence. Those that remain glowing shine even more vividly against the night. The river accepts them all, without judgment. You sit with the truth. Winds will come, flames will flicker, and peace is not found in stopping the wind, but in learning to glow through it. Section 7. The river quiets again after the wind has passed, and the lanterns continue their soft drift into the dark. You walk back toward the village, where behind the rows of houses, a small workshop glows with warm light. Curious, you step inside and find an old lantern maker sitting at a low table. Sheets of delicate paper are spread before him, along with bamboo strips and brushes of ink. His fingers move slowly, folding, shaping, and binding each piece together. The Buddha once taught about right effort, not straining. Not laziness, but a steady, balanced energy. Watching the lantern maker, you see that teaching in action. His work is neither hurried nor hesitant. Each fold is careful but unforced, each stroke of ink flowing with ease. He pauses often, holding the lantern in his hands as if listening to it before continuing. You realize mindfulness is not always sitting silently. It can also be woven into each gesture of daily life. Isn't it beautiful how patience itself becomes a form of artistry? There is a quirky Zen story about a monk who spent years making lanterns for the temple. One day, a student asked, "Why do you waste time with paper and bamboo when you could be meditating?" The monk smiled and said, "Every fold is meditation. Every lantern is a prayer." His lanterns were so simple, yet when lit, they seemed to shine with unusual warmth. People said it was because the maker's mindfulness lived inside them. You look at the lantern maker before you now and wonder if the same is true. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, carrying the faint scent of rice cooking from nearby homes. The sounds mingle with the scratch of the brush on paper, The soft creak of bamboo being bent, Zen masters might ask. If you build your life piece by piece, can it not also glow like a lantern? Ajahn Chah once said. When you walk, know you are walking. When you sit, know you are sitting. That is the practice. The lantern maker embodies this, completely present in his work, not rushing toward the finished lantern, not clinging to the ones already made. Each moment is whole in itself. Your breath slows as you watch him. Inhale the fold, exhale the brush stroke. You begin to sense that your own life can be crafted in the same way, not through grand gestures, but through patient, mindful attention to each moment. When the lantern is finished, the maker places it gently on a wooden shelf with others. Dozens of unlit lanterns rest side by side, waiting for night to bring them alive. Even in their unlit state, they hold quiet beauty, like seeds carrying the promise of bloom. You step back into the night, carrying with you the lesson of the lantern maker, that mindfulness is not separate from the world's tasks. It is the folding of paper, the bending of bamboo, the breath you take while you wait. A lantern shines not because it was made quickly, but because it was made with care. Section 8. You leave the lantern maker's workshop and step back into the night air. The village square has filled with people gathered in a wide circle, each holding a lantern lit from within. The glow of many small flames joins together, forming a great ring of light in the darkness. Faces shine softly in the warm glow, old and young, strangers and friends united not by words, but by the quiet presence of shared light. The Buddha often spoke of Sangha, the community of practitioners, as one of the three treasures of the path. Alone, a single flame may flicker, but together, many lights create a radiance that feels unwavering. Looking at the circle, you see Avalokiteshvara's compassion embodied not in 1,000 arms, but in 1,000 small acts of presence, each lantern lifted, each flame adding to the whole. Isn't it wonderful how community itself becomes a lantern against the dark? There is a quirky Zen tradition where monks gather at the end of long retreats to sit in a circle of lanterns, chanting softly while passing the flame from one to the next. The ritual is not about ceremony, it is about recognition. Each flame began from the same source. Each light belongs to everyone. You imagine yourself in such a circle now, holding your lantern close, then extending it outward to join the others. Your flame no longer just yours, but part of something greater. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, carrying the sound of bells from the temple nearby. The tones mingle with the faint murmur of the crowd, waving into the moment like threads in a tapestry. Zen masters might ask, when many lanterns shine together, does each light lose itself or find itself? Ajahn Chah once said, one stick alone breaks easily, but many together are strong. The circle of light is this teaching alive fragile flames individually, yet powerful together. You notice how even the lanterns that wobble in the breeze are supported by the glow of those beside them. Your breath slows as you hold your lantern. Inhale, you receive the warmth of others. Exhale, you give your own warmth back. Each cycle is a reminder that compassion is not meant to be hoarded. It flows through you, into the circle, into the world. The villagers begin to lower their lanterns, placing them carefully on the ground so the circle becomes a glowing ring encircling everyone within. For a moment, the darkness outside feels vast, but inside the circle, it is soft, gentle, and safe. You sit cross-legged on the ground, lantern before you, and realize that Avalokiteshvara's 1,000 arms are not abstract, they are here. In the reaching out of each hand to place a lantern beside another, completing the circle, the night grows deeper, yet the circle holds its light, steady and bright, and in its glow, you feel yourself part of something greater than your own breath, your own story. You are part of the circle, and the circle is part of you. Section 9. The circle of lanterns remains glowing in the square, steady and warm, but your steps carry you back toward the river. The water is calmer now, its surface smooth like polished glass. Lanterns drift farther downstream, but some still float nearby, their flames reflecting in the water so perfectly that you can hardly tell where the light ends and its image begins. You crouch by the bank and watch. A lantern above the surface burns steady, but its reflection quivers with every ripple, bending and breaking into fragments of gold. The lantern itself remains unchanged, yet the image shifts constantly. The Buddha once compared the mind to water when it is still. It reflects reality clearly. When it is agitated, everything appears distorted. You realize the reflections on the river are showing you your own mind. Isn't it interesting how clarity is not about changing the world outside, but about calming the waters within? There is a quirky Zen story about a monk who spent nights staring into a pond, waiting for the moon's reflection to appear. When the wind stirred the water, the moon seemed broken into pieces. One evening, frustrated, he threw a stone into the pond. The ripples made the reflection vanish completely. At that moment, he laughed, realizing he had been chasing an image all along, when the real moon had always been shining above him. You recall this story as you gaze at the wavering reflections. What is it you chase in your own life, the lantern itself, or its flickering image? You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, a gentle sigh that stirs the water slightly. The reflections tremble again, shimmering into shapes that barely resemble lanterns. Zen masters might ask, when you see the lantern in the water, is it true light, or just mind's play? Ajahn Chah once said, when the heart is still, you see things as they are. When it moves, you see only shadows. Tonight, the river makes his words vivid. Your breath slows as you watch the contrast, the steady flame above, the restless reflection below. You realize both are true in their own way, but only one holds the real light. Inhale, your mind steadies like the river at rest. Exhale, the reflections soften. Less demanding, less distracting. You find peace not by chasing clarity in the ripples, but by looking directly at the flame itself. The lanterns continue to drift downstream, their reflections trailing beside them like shadows of thought. You lean back, gazing at the sky, where the stars reflect in the river as well, countless points of light trembling on the surface. And here, in this shimmering scene, you feel a deep calm, knowing that even when the water ripples, the real lantern, the real moon, the real stars are always above, steady and whole. Section 10. The night has grown late, and most of the villagers have gone home. The square is quiet. The songs have ended, and only a few lanterns remain floating on the river. You sit close to the water, watching one last lantern drift slowly downstream. Its flame glows faintly now, smaller than before, yet still it burns against the vast dark surrounding it. The Buddha once said that all things that arise must also pass. The lantern's life is short, its light fragile, yet in its brief glow it has illuminated countless hearts, yours included. You realize the lantern's journey is not about how long it shines, but how freely it is released. Isn't it tender how endings, when seen with clarity, are simply part of the beauty of things? There is a Zen story of a master who lit a lantern for his students every night. When one student asked what the lantern symbolized, the master blew it out, leaving the room in darkness. The teaching, he said, is not in the flame, but in the seeing. As you watch the last lantern on the river, you feel the same truth. The flame is only a pointer. The real light is the awareness within you, steady even when every lantern fades. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, softer now, like a lullaby closing the night. The trees sway gently as if bowing to the departing lights. Zen masters might ask, when the last lantern goes dark, what remains, the darkness, or the seeing of the darkness? Ajahn Chah once told his students, peace is already here. You do not have to chase it. Only stop disturbing it. The lantern drifts farther and farther away, until its glow becomes a tiny dot, then vanishes into the horizon. Yet the peace it awakened in you lingers, glowing quietly in your chest. Your breath slows with the rhythm of the river. Inhale, accepting what has been. Exhale, releasing what must go. Each cycle becomes a farewell, gentle and complete. The river grows dark again, yet it does not feel empty. The lanterns may be gone, but their reflections remain in memory, and deeper still, their teaching has become your own. You close your eyes, resting in the stillness, feeling Avalokiteshvara's compassion and the Buddhist wisdom gently intertwined within your breath. The night is silent now, the festival over, but in your heart, the lantern's glow remains, a light that was never only outside of you. As your breath slows, feel every worry slip away, like leaves floating down a quiet stream. Peace is here, always has been. Story 5. Buddhist Teachings for Relaxation. The Theravada monks of Sri Lanka. Simple lives. Quiet joy. Section 1. Hey guys. Tonight we are going to explore some timeless Zen stories that have helped people find peace and relaxation for centuries. If your mind's been racing all day, these tales might gently pull you back to the stillness waiting within. In our busy lives, it is easy to forget that calm is not out there, it is already yours to uncover. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you would like, share your location and local time in the comments. I always love seeing where in the world you are listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let us ease into tonight's journey together. The morning begins before the sun has risen over the island of Sri Lanka. The air is cool and heavy with mist, and the forest around the monastery holds a deep hush. You sit on the worn stone steps of a small temple, your hands resting loosely on your knees. From inside, faint sounds drift outward, low chanting from the monks who have already begun their day. Their voices blend into a single tone, steady and grounding, like the heartbeat of the morning itself. Dawn arrives slowly here. The palms and banyans stir with the first hint of light, and the silhouettes of saffron-robed monks appear, moving quietly along the paths. They carry no possessions beyond their bowls, their bare feet brushing the earth with each deliberate step. You notice how calm their movements are, unhurried, but never lazy. It feels as though every gesture is connected to something larger than themselves. The Buddha taught that a life of simplicity clears the space for wisdom, to renounce endless wants, to live close to the earth, to begin each day with silence and stillness. These choices are not about denial but about freedom. Watching the monks, you begin to sense that truth. In giving up what clutters, they uncover what steadies. Isn't it curious how often you seek more to feel secure? When here, less is the key to peace. There is a quirky custom in some Sri Lankan monasteries where the morning bell is not rung by hand but struck by a swinging log of wood. The sound is deep and earthy, echoing across the trees, reminding both monks and laypeople alike to wake not just from sleep but into awareness. You hear such a bell now, its tone resonating through the mist, and it feels less like a call to rise and more like an invitation to return to the present. To yourself, you hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, gentle and hushed, like nature exhaling with you. The sound reminds you that even the earth itself follows rhythms of stillness and movement. Zen masters might ask, if the morning does not rush the sun, why do you rush your life? As the monks finish their chanting, they bow toward the temple's inner shrine. Their bodies fold and rise with a grace that comes from repetition, yet each bow feels alive. Not mechanical. You mirror their breathing as you watch. Inhale as they rise. Exhale as they bow. Slowly, your own chest loosens, your shoulders soften, and the early anxiety of the day fades like mist before the sun. The sky grows brighter, painting the monastery in soft gold. Birds begin to call from the treetops, their notes weaving into the calm like threads of sound. You realize that the day has only just begun, yet already peace surrounds you, woven into the chanting. The footsteps, the quiet air of dawn on the island. Section 2. The sun climbs higher now, the mist dissolving into the warm air. The monks emerge from the temple one by one, each holding a single alms bowl cradled gently against their chest. They walk barefoot down the narrow dirt path toward the village, their robes brushing lightly against their ankles, their pace slow and steady. You follow at a respectful distance, noticing how the line of monks moves like a quiet river, each one separate, yet flowing together. The Buddha taught that the alms bowl is more than a vessel for food. It is a symbol of humility and interdependence. By carrying the bowl, the monk acknowledges dependence on others, and by filling it, the villagers practice generosity. The exchange is not charity but a shared practice of compassion, a recognition that giver and receiver are both sustained by kindness. Watching the monks, you sense the beauty of this relationship, simplicity sustained by generosity, generosity sustained by simplicity. Isn't it remarkable how balance arises when no one clings to more than they need? There is a quirky tradition in some Sri Lankan monasteries. A monk will walk through the streets with his alms bowl, and if a child drops a small handful of rice inside, the monk bows just as deeply as if he had received a full meal. The teaching is simple. The value of a gift lies not in its size, but in the heart that offers it. You imagine yourself placing something small in a bowl, perhaps a flower, a handful of grain, and seeing the monk's eyes soften with gratitude, showing that nothing given with sincerity is ever too little. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside as you walk behind the monks. Birds swoop from tree to tree, their wings flashing in the morning light. A dog wanders lazily down the road, pausing to watch the saffron robes pass. The ordinary world feels softened by the monks' presence, as though even nature pauses to recognize their quiet steps. Zen masters might ask, when you give, are you offering from fullness or from emptiness? And when you receive, do you see the gift or the giver? Ajahn Chah once said, when you eat the kindness of others. Do not forget this. You reflect on his words as the villagers come forward, placing spoonfuls of rice, bits of curry, or pieces of fruit into each bowl. Some are farmers with rough hands. Others are mothers guiding small children. Yet all offer what they can, and each monk bows in silence, acknowledging the gift with dignity and respect. Your breath slows as you witness the exchange. Inhale, the bowl opens. Exhale, the bowl fills. With each cycle, you begin to feel the truth of interdependence in your own body. Just as the monks rely on villagers for food, you rely on countless unseen hands, everyday farmers, bakers, even strangers you will never meet. Each meal you eat is already a web of generosity. The monks begin to turn back toward the monastery, their bowls now full but their steps unchanged. As calm as when they first set out, the villagers return to their homes, smiling softly as they watch the monks depart. The path is the same, yet it feels lighter now, filled with the quiet joy of giving and receiving. You return alongside the monks, holding in your heart the lesson of the alms bowl, humility in receiving, generosity in giving, and the deep peace that arises when both are shared. Section 3. The monks return from the village, their bowls now heavy with rice, vegetables, and fruit. They walk slowly back into the monastery courtyard, where tall palm trees sway gently in the breeze. The sun is higher now, and light filters through the leaves, scattering soft patterns of gold across the stone floor. The monks place their bowls down in silence and gather together beneath the shade of the palms. Soon, their voices rise again, not in conversation, but in chanting. Ancient Pali verses flow steadily from their lips, a sound both deep and high, weaving into a harmonious drone that fills the courtyard. You sit nearby, the palms above you moving with the rhythm of the wind, and let the chanting wash over you. It is not necessary to understand the words. The sound itself carries a calm that touches you more deeply than meaning ever could. The Buddha taught that chanting is not about pleasing the gods or creating spectacle. It is about reminding the heart of the teachings, over and over, until they settle like water soaking into dry earth. Listening now, you feel those words ripple into you like waves, steady, soothing, without end. Isn't it remarkable how repetition, something so simple, can create such profound stillness? There is a quirky custom in some Sri Lankan monasteries. Monks chant not only in the temple, but also while walking among the coconut palms in the evening. Villagers say the sound is like the forest itself singing, as if the trees join the monks in reciting the Buddhist words. You picture this now? Palms swaying, voices blending with rustling leaves, and you can almost feel the trees bowing softly to the rhythm. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, carrying the chant's vibration outward. Birds pause in their calls, as if listening, while a lizard scurries across the wall and then stops, still, as though it too is caught in the sound. Zen masters might ask, is the chant in the monks' voices, in your ears, or in the silence that holds them both? Ajahn Chah once said, when you chant, let the sound be your breath, let the breath be your mind. Then the words disappear, and only peace remains. You close your eyes. Breathing with the monks, inhale the chant rises, exhale the chant falls. Soon, you feel as though your breath itself is part of the ancient verse, carried in harmony with voices centuries old. The chanting continues under the palms, not hurried, not loud, just steady. It feels as though time has slowed, or perhaps stopped altogether. You realize you do not need to remember every word, nor grasp its meaning. You only need to rest in the sound, letting it steady your heart like a hand placed gently on your shoulder. When the chanting ends, silence blooms once more, rich and full. The palms sway, the birds resume their song, and the monks sit quietly, eyes soft, faces serene. You remain in the courtyard, the echo of their voices still alive within you, carrying the calm of ancient words into the present moment. Section 4. The courtyard rests in silence after the chanting fades. But soon the monks begin to rise one by one. Some return to their huts, others remain beneath the palms, and a few take simple brooms into their hands. You notice how quietly they move, no orders given, no words exchanged. They simply begin to sweep. The courtyard floor is wide, scattered with dry leaves fallen from the palms. Each monk leans slightly forward, sweeping in slow, deliberate strokes. The sound of the broom brushing across stone is soft and steady. Like a whispering rhythm, you sit and watch. Realizing this, too, is practice, every motion unhurried, every breath aligned with the simple task. The Buddha taught that mindfulness is not limited to meditation cushions or sacred rituals. To sweep a floor, to wash a bowl, to walk a path, all can be meditation when done with full presence. Watching the monks, you see that sweeping is not about cleaning alone. It is about clearing the mind, brushing away restlessness the way a leaf is brushed aside. Isn't it interesting how peace often arrives not in stillness, but in gentle movement? There is a quirky Zen tale of a young monk who swept the monastery with great energy. Eager to finish quickly, his teacher stopped him and asked, "Are you sweeping the leaves, or are you sweeping your own heart?" The boy laughed nervously, realizing his task was more than it appeared. Since then, he moved the broom slower, listening to each stroke as though it were a teacher itself. You picture yourself holding a broom now, sweeping not just dirt but distractions. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, dropping new ones onto the courtyard even as the monks clear the old. It feels almost like a conversation between earth and practice. Zen masters might ask, if the wind keeps scattering leaves, why sweep at all? And yet, The monks continue calmly, teaching without words that the act itself is enough. Regardless of outcome, Ajahn Chah once said, "You cannot sweep away all the leaves in the forest, but you can sweep the path before you." His words echo as you watch the monks. They do not strive to finish. They simply meet the moment, broom in hand. One stroke at a time, your breath deepens as you listen. Inhale, the broom draws forward. Exhale, the broom brushes back. With each cycle, you begin to sense the simplicity of practice woven into action. The courtyard is not perfectly clean, and perhaps it never will be, but in the sweeping itself, clarity arises. When the monks finish, they lean the brooms against the wall and bow gently toward the courtyard, as though honoring the space they have tended. The ground is clearer, the air calmer, and your own mind feels lighter, as if some of your own inner clutter has been brushed aside too. You remain seated under the palms, holding the sound of the sweeping in your memory, a quiet rhythm reminding you that mindfulness can be found in even the most ordinary of gestures. Section 5. The courtyard rests clean and still, the brooms set aside. The monks now gather in the dining hall, a simple open pavilion with wooden beams and mats laid across the floor. The air is filled with the aroma of rice and vegetable curries, offered earlier by the villagers and now shared among the community. You sit quietly as the monks place their bowls before them, each filled with just enough to sustain the day. The Buddha taught the middle way: not too much, not too little. Food in the monastery is never about indulgence or deprivation, but balance. Watching the monks, you notice how carefully they prepare. They sit silently, palms together, eyes lowered, offering gratitude before even lifting a grain of rice. There is no rush, no chatter, only presence. Isn't it remarkable how something as ordinary as a meal can become sacred through mindfulness? In some Sri Lanka monasteries, there is a quirky tradition of mixing all the food together: rice, lentils, curry, even fruit into one bowl before eating. To outsiders it may seem strange, but the practice teaches detachment from preference. Sweet, sour, salty, bitter, all flavors become one, reminding the monk not to cling to liking or disliking. You picture yourself tasting such a mixture. Surprised perhaps, but noticing how each spoonful is less about enjoyment and more about gratitude. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, a steady hum that blends with the soft clink of spoons against bowls. Birds call from the rafters, swooping in and out, yet no one chases them away. The hall holds everything without judgment: the monks, the birds, the food, the silence. Zen masters might ask, when you eat, are you nourishing the body, or is the body nourishing you? Ajahn Chah once told his students, every bite is kindness, the rice is the labor of farmers, the curry the gift of villagers, the salt carried by many hands. To eat without mindfulness is to forget the web that sustains you. You reflect on this truth as you imagine lifting a spoonful of rice to your mouth. Suddenly it is not just food, it is sunlight, rain, soil, effort, and generosity all combined. Your breath slows as you follow the monk's rhythm. Inhale, the bowl opens. Exhale, the body receives. Eating becomes meditation, each bite a reminder to live with awareness. The simplicity of rice and salt feels profound in its honesty. Nothing extra, nothing wasted, only what is needed, only what is given. When the meal is finished, the monks wash their bowls carefully, wiping each surface until it shines. They place them upside down on the mats, their alms bowls empty again, waiting for tomorrow's offering. The practice is never ending, yet never heavy. There is joy in this rhythm, the joy of simplicity, of never having too much to guard or too little to endure. You sit in the quiet dining hall, the scent of rice lingering in the air, and feel your own heart soften? The lesson of the meal is clear. Peace is not found in abundance, nor in deprivation, but in gratitude for what is given, just as it is. Section 6. The dining hall grows quiet after the bowls are washed and set aside. The monks step back into the open air, their robes moving lightly with the breeze. You follow them down a shaded path lined with flowering shrubs until the trees open into a wide courtyard. At the center stands an enormous banyan tree, its roots spreading like rivers across the ground, its branches arching so wide that they shelter the entire gathering space in cool shade. The monks sit cross-legged beneath the tree, their saffron robes forming a circle of warmth against the earth's soft tones. You take a place at the edge, leaning against one of the sprawling roots. The air here feels different, thick with age, as though the tree has witnessed centuries of practice. The Buddha himself often taught beneath trees, finding nature the perfect companion to silence. Sitting here, you feel why. The banyan holds the space effortlessly, its vastness reminding you of the patience of time. The Buddha taught that the Dhamma, the truth of things, is always present, not hidden in books or temples alone. A tree, a stone, even the wind carries the same teaching if you are willing to listen. Isn't it curious how wisdom often speaks loudest in silence? There is a quirky story about a young Sri Lankan monk who asked his teacher how to meditate. The teacher simply pointed to the banyan tree. Confused, the boy sat beneath it for hours, waiting for some sign. Nothing happened, just the sound of birds, the feel of wind, the sight of ants crawling. At dusk, the teacher returned and asked, "What did you learn?" The boy shrugged. The teacher smiled. "That is the lesson. Life does not perform for you. It only asks you to see." You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, thousands of them moving together like a great chorus. A flock of parrots bursts from the branches, green feathers flashing, their squawks loud yet playful. No one stirs. The monks remain seated, their faces calm, their presence undisturbed. Zen masters might ask, is the banyan teaching when it is silent, or is it teaching when it sings with wind and wings? Ajahn Chah once said, "The forest is a great teacher. If you listen carefully, you will hear the Dhamma in every rustling leaf." You recall his words now as you let your awareness rest not on thought, but on the living presence around you, the sway of the branches, the coolness of shade, the endless patience of roots gripping the soil. Your breath slows naturally, matching the rhythm of the tree. Inhale, branches rise. Exhale, roots deepen. It feels as if you are no longer just sitting beneath the banyan but becoming part of it. Your breath, another leaf in the canopy. The monks remain beneath the tree until the sun begins to dip, their silence as steady as the banyan's trunk. You sense the teaching is not in what is spoken, but in what is lived. Stability, patience, presence. You lean back against the root, letting your eyes close, feeling that same stillness spreading within you. The banyan has offered its lesson without a word, and you carry it quietly in your chest as the day begins to move toward evening. Section 7. As the afternoon drifts into evening, the monks rise slowly from beneath the banyan tree. Their movements are unhurried, their robes stirring like small waves with each step. They walk in a single line toward a long stone path that stretches between groves of mango and coconut trees. The sun is low now, and the path glows golden in its light. You follow quietly, noticing how each monk's steps seem to ripple with calm, as though the earth itself softens beneath their bare feet. The Buddha taught satipatthana, mindfulness in all actions, including walking. Walking meditation is not about reaching a destination, but about being fully present with each step. Heel touches ground, weight shifts, toes lift. The body moves so ordinary, yet when noticed deeply, it becomes a doorway to peace. Watching the monks, you sense that this path is not a road to somewhere else. It is the practice itself, Isn't it curious how easily you forget the ground beneath you? When each step can be enough? There is a quirky practice in some Sri Lankan monasteries. Monks will walk back and forth on the same short stretch of path, perhaps only 20 steps long, for hours. To an outsider it may seem monotonous, but to them it is a river of awareness flowing endlessly between two banks. They say each turn is like being reborn. One journey ends, another begins, all in silence. You picture yourself pacing the path, 20 steps forward, 20 back, discovering that each step feels different when truly seen. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, mingling with the sound of crickets beginning their evening chorus. The air cools slightly, and the light shifts from gold to amber. Zen masters might ask, if you are always trying to arrive, when will you ever truly walk? Ajahn Chah once said, why hurry if you walk fast? Where will you arrive? Walk slowly. And you are already there? His words echo as you watch the monk's steps. Each one is deliberate, yet soft. No strain, no rush. It is as if time itself has slowed to match their pace. Your breath begins to follow the rhythm of their walking. Inhale, the foot lifts. Exhale, the foot rests. With each cycle, you feel more grounded, more connected to the earth below. The worries of your day seem to scatter like dust behind you, unneeded on this simple path. As the monks continue, the sun dips lower, and shadows stretch long across the stones. Fireflies begin to glow among the trees, tiny lanterns flickering in the deepening dusk. Their light seems to mirror the monk's steps, quiet, steady, luminous without effort. Eventually, the monks pause at the end of the path. Standing silently, their bodies still, their breathing calm, they do not bow or speak. They simply stop, as if to remind you that practice is not endless striving but also knowing when to rest. You stand with them, your own feet firmly planted, your breath soft and slow. In that stillness, you realize you have been walking too, not just with your body, but with your heart, step by mindful step into a deeper peace. Section 8. The last of the sunlight fades as you and the monks leave the walking path behind. Darkness settles gently over the monastery, and the air cools with the arrival of night. In the open hall near the temple's heart, small oil lamps are lit one by one, their flames flickering softly against the polished wooden beams. The glow is warm, steady, and low, not harsh like electric light, but tender, almost alive. The monks sit in silence, their faces illuminated by the lamps. The flames seem to soften their features, highlighting the quiet dignity of their simple lives. You sit nearby, and your eyes rest on the small flame before you. Its movement is subtle, bowing and swaying with the faintest breeze. The Buddha often used the image of a lamp to describe clarity of mind. Just as a flame dispels darkness, so does mindfulness dispel confusion. Watching the lamps, you realize that even the smallest light is enough to reveal what was once hidden. Isn't it comforting how one flame can push back so much night? There is a quirky practice in some Sri Lankan temples. At dusk, the youngest novices are given the task of lighting the lamps, moving barefoot through the halls with bowls of oil and long wooden tapers. Sometimes the flame goes out, sometimes oil spills, yet they smile softly, trying again until each lamp is bright. Their teachers remind them that lighting lamps is not only about bringing light to the room, but also about tending the flame within their own hearts. You picture their small hands shielding each flame, their laughter echoing against the temple walls. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, carrying the faint hum of night insects and the distant croak of frogs. The sounds blend seamlessly with the flickering of the lamps. Zen masters might ask, when you see the flame, do you notice the lamp, or the light it gives? Ajahn Chah once said, the mind without wisdom is like a dark house. Light a single lamp, and the whole space changes. You let his words guide you as you sit with the flame before you. Inhale, the light glows brighter. Exhale, the shadows soften. Each breath feels like oil feeding the flame, your presence itself becoming fuel for awareness. The monks chant softly now, their voices mingling with the glow of the lamps. It is not a chant of longing or demand, but of gratitude for the day that has passed. You close your eyes and listen, the sound wrapping around you like the warmth of the flames. When the chanting ends, silence settles again. The lamps continue their quiet vigil. Steady and patient, you realize that light need not be grand to bring peace. Sometimes it is enough to sit beside a single flame, breathing gently, watching it sway, letting its glow remind you of your own inner clarity. The night deepens, yet the lamps hold steady, as if whispering that light is always present, even in the darkest hours. You lean back, your body at ease, your heart calm, resting in the quiet joy of this gentle illumination. Section 9. The lamps continue to glow within the hall. But outside, the air shifts. A thick breeze carries the scent of damp earth, and clouds gather quickly above the palms. Soon, the first drop of rain falls soft at first, then heavier, until the sky opens with the sound of a monsoon. The courtyard fills with the rhythmic drumming of water on stone. The roofs glisten, and rivulets stream down the paths. The monks do not move quickly to escape. Some remain sitting in the hall, eyes half closed, while others step outside beneath the downpour, their robes darkening as they welcome the rain. You, too, step forward and let the cool drops touch your skin, feeling how the heat of the day dissolves in the storm. The Buddha taught impermanence as the very heart of life. Just as clouds gather and break, so do joy and sorrow, gain and loss. The rain tonight is not interruption, it is reminder. Nothing stays fixed. And in that change, there is beauty. Isn't it striking how what you feared might disrupt the night instead brings freshness? Renewal. Even joy. In some Sri Lanka monasteries, there is a quirky practice during monsoon season. Monks will sit together in open-air pavilions and let the rain soak them while they chant. They say the water is not just falling outside, but washing through their minds, cleansing restless thoughts, carrying them away like leaves down a stream. You imagine yourself among them, chanting as the rain runs down your face. Each drop another moment of letting go. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, mingling now with the roar of rain on every surface. The two sounds merge into one vast symphony, so constant it almost feels like silence. Zen masters might ask, when the rain falls without pause, do you hear many drops or only one? Ajahn Chah once said, let the rain fall, let the sun shine, your peace is not in them, but in your heart. His words return to you as you close your eyes. Inhale, the rain cools your breath. Exhale, the rain carries your worries away. Each cycle feels lighter, as if the storm itself is teaching you how to release. The monks laugh softly as the courtyard fills with shallow pools, their reflections shimmering with each ripple. The banyan tree drinks deeply, its roots darkened and strong. Fireflies still appear in the wet night, their glow bothered by the downpour. Even in rain, life continues not hindered, but refreshed. You remain beneath the edge of the pavilion, listening, breathing, resting in the truth of impermanence. The rain will end, the clouds will clear, the lamps will burn low, but peace endures, not because things stay the same, but because you learn to move with their change. Section 10. The rain eases slowly, its rhythm softening until only a gentle dripping remains from the eaves and leaves. The courtyard glistens in the faint lamplight, and mist rises from the stones, carrying with it the freshness of renewal. The monks return quietly to their quarters, robes damp but faces serene, their laughter fading into silence. You stay seated near the hall, breathing deeply in the cool night air. The monastery feels hushed now. The oil lamps burn lower, their flames steady but smaller. casting long shadows on the wooden beams. A few crickets begin their song again, filling the quiet with a gentle pulse. You realize the day has passed entirely from dawn chanting to alms rounds. From sweeping leaves to walking meditation, from lamps to rain, the rhythm of the monk's lives is not about doing more, but about returning again and again to stillness. The Buddha taught that contentment is the greatest wealth. These monks own almost nothing in alms bowl. A robe, perhaps a mat to sleep on, yet their joy shines through every gesture, calm and effortless. Isn't it curious how often you search for happiness in abundance? When here, joy arises from simplicity itself. There is a story told in Sri Lanka about a wandering monk who was asked by a villager, "Do you ever feel poor? With so few possessions?" The monk smiled and pointed to the moon above. "How could I be poor when I have this?" The villager laughed, realizing the monk was not claiming ownership, but presence. To see the moon, to feel the breeze, to taste rice and salt, this was already enough. You glance up now, noticing the moon breaking through thinning clouds. Its silver glow touching the wet stones like a blessing. You hear the wind rustling the leaves outside, soft and tender after the storm. The trees sway gently, no longer fierce, just resting in the night air. Zen masters might ask, when everything grows still, do you call it ending or beginning? Ajahn Chah once said, "Peace is simple. Just stop complicating it." His words echo as you settle deeper into yourself. Inhale, the breath arrives, steady and cool. Exhale, the breath departs, leaving ease behind. You realize that the stillness you feel is not only in the monastery or the monks, it is in you. Always waiting, always present. The lamps grow dimmer, their oil nearly gone. One by one, they flicker out, leaving the hall in shadow. Yet the darkness does not feel empty. It feels full, gentle, complete. You rest in that darkness, knowing that the light within you remains, steady even without flame. As your breath slows, feel every worry slip away, like leaves floating down a quiet stream. Peace is here, always has been,